Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh and welcome to building a Stack Overflow clone using NextJS and Appwrite. This is one such project which you really want to do and will teach you so much about building a complete application onto a production level. We'll be using Appwrite as a backend as a service. We'll be using authentication from the backend of the Appwrite, as well as it's not just we make a query, get some data and display that. No, it is way beyond that. The complexity of the project, I'll give you a brief idea of it just in a moment and you will love it. Not only that, in the next video, we'll go through with the UIs. We are using Magic UI as well as a Certainty UI to make it absolutely polished. It's a Stack Overflow clone, but we are not cloning the UI part of it. We're taking a liberty on the UI part, but the functionality part is something that we want to focus on. Apart from that, I wanted to teach you about Appwrite, all ins and outs of it, and what can be possibly done with the Appwrite, especially the Node-SDK. You can spin up the entire infrastructure of Appwrite with the codes itself. I want to show you how to do that, how to build all the models, all the Appwrite so that it's transferable. You just need to inject the API key of Appwrite and that's it. It just spins up the entire models, documents, attributes, everything within the code itself. It's one of the really superpower of the SDK that Appwrite provides us. So we'll be working through with that. Let me quickly walk you through. So this is the whole project and I've already recorded the videos. So there are 10 videos in it, but you'll be seeing less than 10 videos, but because I'm looking forward that some of the videos could be combined. So at least last two videos can be easily combined. You don't need to have two videos for it. One video is good enough. So it's not about for me making more count of the videos, but rather reducing the count and giving you more value so that you can follow along with me. Apart from that, there will be a link in the description about the exact repository URL so that you can check and see how the complex code is being written and how you can utilize that as well. That's my number one goal. And if I just give you a small glimpse of the code as well, it's fairly a complex code that you go ahead and see. For each one of the page that you're seeing, you're going to see that we are not just writing one query and getting the data and displaying it. You can see there are so many queries being fired up here, and this is how it works in the real world database. I'll walk you through how it's being done. So if you see in the codes and questions and everything, you'll see, yes, we are using, just like we use in the real world production, how multiple of these codes are being used. A lot of third-party APIs we are using. We are using Zustand for the state management in this one. We are using Magic UI. A lot of fun stuff is there for the confetti and whatnot. A lot of stuff are there. We'll be using that, a Certainty UI. And we'll be using Appwrite in and out. Couple of fun and interesting part of the Appwrite we want to use, like in the auth itself. Appwrite provides us something known as preferences. I'll show you how to hack it and use it. You can store so much into this preferences. We have used it for storing the reputation of the user, but you can store preferences like dark mode, light mode. You can store the preferences like what to watch in the videos, 1x speed, 2x speed, 3x speed, like who watches in the 3x, but you get the idea that how this can be used. And apart from this, we have not only just one database, but this entire database is being spinned up from the SDK of the Appwrite, Node-SDK. So we'll be having multiple of these collections. We'll be firing up the queries with that. And if you go ahead and take a look in the models, so for example, in the questions, we are just firing up everything from the code itself. That is the superpower I wanted to teach you about the Appwrite, that yeah, this can really be a fun stuff to work with that. So overall, the videos are already being made. They are almost all being edited. So expect the videos to be flown up in a fashion. So in advance, I'll be posting all of these videos so you can see when the video is rolling out. And once all videos are being rolled out, I'll sum them up in one video and will be publishing it as a long course as well, just like I always do. But I need a little bit of the support from your side. These complex codes and projects requires a lot of effort to work with that and even more effort to record them. So go in the comment section and just post a comment that, hey, thanks for working so hard for us. Or just say, hey, the video helps, or I'm using it, or I'm watching it. Some comments, we're keeping a target of just 100 comments. Please do that. I would really happy for that. And apart from this, one thing I would like to mention here, this is not an absolute 100% beginner's course. If you haven't gone through with the JavaScript, if you don't know React basics, even if you don't know the Next.js basics or routing of that, this course is gonna be not helpful for you. So this is an intermediate to advanced level course which teaches you about how a production level app is being made, how multiple APIs are being called, how to get the data of it, and we won't be discussing the basics of Next.js and all these things. But yes, overall, this is a very valuable course. in the second half of the course, you'll feel like that it's a really same queries that we are firing up. The AppWrite gives us the exactly same structure, that changing the queries doesn't feel like that we are changing, just couple of keywords get changed and you can write the different queries. So after one point of time, it's not about writing code along with me. We'll be just taking the code, pushing it on the screen, and we'll try to understand what's happening and the flow of the application. It is more important for you not to just keep on watching the videos, but actually understand the flow of the code, as well as see the code in the GitHub repository and try to incorporate in your code file so that you can build the application again. So that's where I'm focusing on this one. I hope this will add enough value to your life and you'll be able to build a really complex project and get confidence in it. Again, it's really important that you support me upon this, hit that subscribe button. And that's it. In the next video, I'll give you a tour of the entire application. We'll walk you through with all of that, setups and all this stuff. That's it. This is the video I usually record after the end of the series. So here we are. And that's it. Best of luck for you to complete this entire series. If you are watching this, click a selfie, tag me up on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you are. It feels me so happy that you are learning from that. And that's my motivation. That's it for this video. Hit that subscribe button, comments, don't forget, and I'll catch you up in the next video. Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh and welcome to the series of building a Stack Overflow clone using AppWrite and NextJS. This whole project is really interesting and we'll walk you through how to push the things into production so that hundreds and thousands of users can use it, and we'll be using everything latest, NextJS and the modern version of the AppWrite for our backend as a service. Now this entire thing is a clone of a Stack Overflow, but it doesn't really mean that it's going to be a UI clone of that. We are not taking any inspiration for the UI. Stack Overflow has served its purpose to hundreds and thousands of users. We don't want to take any inspiration from the UI part, but rather the functionality part so that we can walk you through that how it is possible to build a really scalable and complex application and how to write logics for it and a whole bunch of other things. Now, one thing I would like to remind you early up here is this is not a UI clone project. This is a functionality part, how we can design the complex functionality. Surely the UI is pretty amazing and pretty great, but I don't expect that you are taking this course or this entire playlist just to learn the UI part. We won't be going heavy duty on that. But with that said, let me first walk you through that. When I say we are not going heavy duty on that, it is fairly heavy duty. So this is our application that we'll be going through. So this is the river flow, the Stack Overflow, and yes, it looks fancy. All the things goes up here nicely. We have this whole thing, which is a nice boilerplate up here. Really looks nice and gives an impact. And behind the scene, you can see there are images, and these images are taken up from your questions as well. In the questions, we support that you can upload your images. And as you scroll them up, these gets up here. As you will add more, this will stack up into more of these rows. And you can hover them and move on to any questions and you like. And then further, we have all these latest questions, which looks pretty sleek. And then we have top contributor. In this demo, we have just one user, but surely we can add as many users. And based on the reputation, they will be given up here as the top contributor and all of that. We are doing a complex calculation on the reputation as well. So yes, we'll be doing that part. And then the join now button and everything up here. So there we go. We can see there are questions up here and we are following the exact models that are present in the Stack Overflow. So you can upvote any question, downvote any question, however you want to go, you can just go ahead and work with that. You can add all these PHP and everything just here are a part of Markdown syntax. So yes, that is also being supported. Here you can add images. You might have noticed Stack Overflow has questions. You can ask questions on top of questions. That's exactly we are going with that. And there go further, we have the answers as well. This answer part is really nice. This actually go ahead and support all of the Markdown syntax. So test answer. So we can just go ahead and use the lines like that. This is an answer. There we go. So you can just go ahead and post your answers just like that. So everything that is there in the Stack Overflow, answers can also be downvote or upvote and can be deleted just like that. And we obviously have login and authentication, and Stack Overflow supports sorry, not Stack Overflow. The AppWrite supports all the authentication. This is the project that we have built. And the way we are building this project is also interesting. We are not touching much of the AppWrite. We are just taking their API keys and that's it. We are not coming back here and touching. In case you want to add more of these features on the authentication, AppWrite supports everything up here. Did I just saw Notion there? Yeah. So Notion supports Google login and Google log, I don't know. These open source project can go a little bit crazy. Like, who would be using the Notion login, but still it's there. Anyways, so we won't be needing much from this. We won't be creating manual databases by coming up here. No, it's all going to be set up and spin up via our code base. We are not touching anything inside this. We are just using it. And rest of all the things are actually going up into our code base. We are going through that. And inside this, we have a profiles management up here. We have how many questions are being asked, reputation, the answers being given. You can see all the questions that you have asked. You can also see answers or upvotes that you have made. So all these questions and everything, we are tracking all these things. Not only that, if you go onto the questions page, you can go ahead and search for questions. Right now, we are deliberately showing just the one of one. So we are only loading one, but you can just go ahead and search for more questions. So we'll work through. This is a fully functional website. So everything that you possibly can do are there. You can even ask questions if you wish. And obviously you will wish on the Stack Overflow. So you can see there are questions, and this is a nice markdown editor. You write your code up here or the text up here, it loads up here. You can choose images, you can add tags, and all these things goes up there. So this is all the thing that we'll be building with our questions and profile. It looks really decent, but it's a really, really complex one, the complex project that we'll be building. Now, let me walk you through that what we are doing and how we are doing. For this entire project, we'll be using NextJS, and that is the major advantage. For the backend, we are choosing AppWrite, and from the AppWrite, we'll be just taking their API keys and we'll be designing our own custom models. We'll be designing our own controllers, APIs, and everything. And that all will be powered by the AppWrite, but this is the way how you should be doing things in the production. Of course, it's not possible, and of course it's doable, but it's not feasible in a big large-scale production app. You go up here and you manually design each of these collections and what data to come up in the collection. So what we'll be doing here is we'll be spinning it up all through the code, and that's possible via the Node AppWrite, so it works flawlessly in the backend. So we'll be going with that. Now for the state management, we'll be using Zustand. I thought it's a really nice and a tiny library so that we can teach you about the Zustand state management in the Next.js. It's going to be pretty lightweight. I'll leave enough room so that you can grow and learn on your own. There are not too many concepts in the Zustand. There is a little bit of the immer concept, little bit of the hydration concept, and that's it. We'll be going through with that. And in case you are very much impressed with the UI that we are building, going to be building this one and framer motions and whatnot, no, as I said, no, you should not be watching this video just for the UI part. You should be watching it for the functional part. Anybody can design these UI in the modern world because we are also dependent on the open source libraries. One of them is Magic UI, which has a lot of components and will be dependent on that. So you can see some of them, and some of them, by the way, on the home page are also there, which we are using. For example, this is the one that we are using for the reputation. You can go ahead and use any one of them. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So we have this God circle. So you can go ahead and have the God circle, interactive cloud icons, something like that. So yes, it's pretty standard, pretty going through with this, that how we are using. So in case you are here just to see that how these UIs are being designed, hey, go ahead, you can do this on your own. You don't need to watch me for that. And another library which we are a little bit dependent on is Uncertainty UI. Again, a great UI library just like the Magic UI, and we'll be dependent on that. We'll be just bringing in the component from here and we'll be copy pasting that. So there is nothing much. We'll be using a little bit of the confetti as well. As soon as the user posts a question, we'll be showering up some of the confetti. It looks good, and we'll teach you a little bit about how to use a third-party package. It's a pretty popular one. If you look at this one, it's a pretty decently popular package, but it's just all fun that we'll be using through. Apart from this cloud we'll be using, and we'll be using a little bit of the markdown editors. So this is going to be our markdown editor of the choice. There are plethora of them available in the market, but this is our choice for this one. So time to time, I'll be walking you through that how we are designing, what we are designing, and how a flow should be. Now, the best part about this entire series is going to be how repeatable this is. Once you understand the concept of building this Stack Overflow clone, because there is so much moving parts into this one, posting questions, then comments, then upvotes. Upvotes can happen on the question, on the answers as well, and a whole lot of other places upvotes can happen. So this will teach you how to design a really complex database within by using the AppWrite, and can write your own controllers and functionality with the help of AppWrite. So I think after watching this, you can pretty much nail down any project, any freelancing work that you have. We're using the latest of the Next.js. In case Next.js updates or something, it's not going to bother us. We'll be focusing so much on the foundational part of that. Zustand is a pretty much nice library, but feel free to inject any other if you wish to have, but it's going to be a pretty fun project that will. So that's the brief overview of what we are building, how we are building, and what should be your mindset about it. So that's it. That's pretty much it. From the next video onwards, the videos are going to be decently long enough. And from the next video onwards, we'll set up our projects, we'll set up our Appwrite project, and we'll walk you through all the details of that. So that's it for this one. Let's catch up in the next video. All right. Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh and welcome to the YouTube channel. In case you are new here, go ahead, hit that subscribe button because we bring up a lot of fantastic projects, a lot of work on the programming basics and whatnot about the tech. Again, I will be giving you the goal and the target for the comments in each one of the video. Please, it's a humble request. These small comments or just a thanks note or just looking forward for the next video. These are my motivation. Please help me to achieve that. So for this video, we'll be just hosting up a comment target of 100 comments. That's it. I know you can easily do that. Please help me achieve that. In this video, we'll be going through with a setting up of the project. We'll be starting from absolute scratch, and we'll be creating a new project on the Appwrite. We'll grab the required details from there and we'll move forward from there. We'll be creating a bunch of files in this one. These are important for us. We'll not start writing in them in this video, but these are important project directory and structure that we need to set up. So let me go up here. I'm on my terminal, and yes, my choice these days is Warp. I'm enjoying this quite a lot. So what we need to do is go into your folder directory, wherever you like to go. I'll copy this, and wherever you want to create the project, just go ahead and place it up here. So I want to create a new project, and the name of the project, I'm going to call this one as stackoverflow. I think that's a good name, but nah, stackoverflow Appwrite. That's a good name. Would you like to use TypeScript for this project? Why not? Let's go with the TypeScript. Again, you don't need to worry about, in case you are JavaScript developers, I'll walk you through that how you can add additional content with the TypeScript. But again, if you are comfortable with JavaScript, you can still follow through it. No worries there. And ESLinting, yeah, give me linting. Tailwind CSS, we are going to be using that. All of our libraries depend on that. Source directory, I'll use in this one. Sometimes I avoid, sometimes I'll use this one. App router, yes, give me the app router. Customize default, no, I don't want to customize it. Should be all up and running and good. And very soon it should be able to do all of this. Come on, do it faster. Whenever I'm in recording mode, it actually works a tiny bit slower. Probably already my CPU is being consumed in the video recording or whatnot. But hopefully it should be done faster. There we go. Now we can just go ahead into the Stack Overflow clone and no such directory. Yes, of course, Stack Overflow Appwrite. Why did you suggested me that? Code, and let's fire up the VS Code that we have. All right, where do we have VS Code? Come on. Where is my VS Code? Oh, there we go. Here it is. But turns out it should be loading up the project. It doesn't. Sometimes it surprises me. But anyway, I can drag and drop this folder up here. Shouldn't be a big issue. There we go. All right. It loaded up another folder for me. Somehow it's behaving a little bit odd. Anyways, no such big issue. No such big deal. We can just handle this one. All right. So our project is running. One good idea is to just start the project. So npm run dev. NextJS, for me at least these days, is notorious enough to show weird errors, but it's good. It's good. This time we are up and running with this one. So we'll just keep it up and running, and we need a couple of new files to go with that. First of all, we need .env file, and we will also need another one which will be .env.sample. This is one for me so that when I upload these things on the GitHub, I can just provide you these samples. As soon as I add this env file, I can go into my Git and can say that .env can be added to gitignore. This is the fastest and easiest way, by the way. And looks good, looks good. So .env is now added to my gitignore. All right, open up the .env, and we want to create a couple of variables up here. And all the variables needs to start with next_public. This is the requirement from the Next.js, not from my side. And we'll be saying we need, first one is appwrite_host_URL. You can name your variable whatever you like. I think host URL is a good enough name. We'll be needing one more, and this one will be, oops, if I can just do that. We'll be needing project ID as well. Appwrite underscore project underscore ID. And we'll be needing one more, and this one is going to be, this doesn't need to be a public one. We can just go ahead and say appwrite underscore API underscore key. All right, so I think this is good enough. You can just rename this one as next public, but these are not public keys, so yeah, good enough. Now, once we are done with this, now we need the host URL ID and the API key. That's all what we need from this one. So let's start a fresh project, and we'll be calling this one as stack, because the rest of all other names are taken up. Stack, and create a next. Frankfurt is the only option available for me. Hopefully soon they'll be available in Bangalore, which is nearby me. Frankfurt is really far away and it creates a bit of a lag in the application. So this one is my project ID, so I can just go ahead and copy this. So this one is my project ID. And what else do we need? We need to create an API key. So how can I do this? I'll add it into web and stack overflow dash appwrite. And I can just go ahead and give it a localhost. Make sure you also give that, otherwise your application will always throw the course error. You can just go ahead and give this localhost. That's it. You don't need to write anything. Once you're uploading this on the Vercel, make sure you click on this, and *.vercel app is also there. Otherwise it will be giving you the course error. npm install appwrite, we will be needing that, but we'll be needing one more. But since it's giving me the option, at least I can just go ahead and install whatever is there needed at the moment. I can install it. We'll be doing this manually on our own, and this is the one. So we need the project URL and the project ID. So this is our project URL. Copy this, and this is our project URL. We'll be creating the API keys in a minute. So we'll just go ahead and say next, go to the dashboard, and hopefully now we'll be able to create an API key and API keys, and you can just go ahead and create an API key. My key name is key1, because I'll be adding another one. Once I record this video, I'll delete this one and I'll create the next one. We'll be needing everything, our database. As of now, we are not working with functions and messaging, but I'll walk you through with what all other things are there to work with. Let's just go ahead and grab everything. I'll go ahead and copy this, and I'll go ahead and paste it. And again, you go ahead and grab your own key. This is my account just for projects and hobby projects. So yeah, we don't use it much. All right, so this is all good. And trust me, this is all. This is all what we need from the Appwrite. Our Appwrite setting is all done. We won't be touching the Appwrite further. We will be doing everything from the code-centric part. All right. So this is all good. Now let's go ahead and create a couple of more files which will be useful for us, and I'll walk you through why they are useful and what's the reason behind that. So first, go into the source and create a new file. Yes, we want to create a file, not a folder first. And we'll be calling this one as env.ts. This is my environment variable file. Sometimes I'll be using direct process.env, but sometimes I need the TypeScript to be satisfied with all the things. So I'll be saying env, just like this, create an object. And in this, I'll be creating an object known as Appwrite, because later on other variables might come in. And in this one, I'll be just creating an endpoint. So endpoint, what is my endpoint? I'll be grabbing it from process.env. And we'll be saying next host URL. But the problem is the Appwrite thing, not the Appwrite, the TypeScript thing is that this is not usually satisfied, that I'm not sure whether this is a string type of variable. So we'll be casting this one as a string so that it's always and always happy. That's the whole idea. That's the goal. So put up a comma, have another one. This one we'll be calling this one as project ID. And this one is a string. This one is next. No suggestion. Next underscore. I'll be copy and paste this one. This one is not host URL, Appwrite project ID. Project underscore ID. It should be giving me suggestions, but anyways. And another one is API key, and that will be coming up from process.env. There we go. We got suggestion, and this is the one API key. Now we can just wrap this up. This will make our life so much easier later on. And last but not the least, go ahead and export it. Export default env. So there we go. You saw that we are not doing much. We are just grabbing all these environment variables, casting them as a string to make our life easier later on. Wherever we need that, we can just go ahead and import all of this. So this is the part one. We can shrink the app, everything up here. Now, another thing that is required for us and will be required for the next video is go ahead and create a couple of files and folder structure. So for this, I'll go inside the source directory, and inside, we should do this inside the source, or we can do this outside. We should do everything inside the source, I guess. So let's go inside the source, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new directory. I'll call this one as models. Now, usually I love to keep all of my modeling structure inside this one, nothing else. For example, I just keep how my data will look like in the database. We'll be doing exactly same, but we'll be keeping a couple of extra files here. I don't want to keep them in utils, personal reasons, personal advantage of doing the things. But again, you go ahead and do yourself. So I'll just go ahead and create a models inside this. And once I'm inside the models, I'll be creating a couple of folders. So let's go ahead and use mkdir. It's much easier and faster to do things here. So I'll be creating one client, which will hold all the client configuration of AppWrite here, so that we can just connect this one. We'll also have one for server. So we'll just go ahead and do like this. And I'll be creating a couple of files as well. Usually there is an index.ts file. I'm not sure what I'll be doing with this. If I need to have a centralized exporting of all of this, I can do that there. And one thing, I'll be naming all of my databases, my collections, everything up here. So I'll keep that in the name.ts. So that is it. Once I have this, I can see I have my directories and structure all lined up nicely and easily. There is nothing inside the client. So first I'll go ahead and create a config file inside my client, and I will be calling this one as config.ts. Nothing much, the configuration, that how can my client connect to the AppWrite. That is all. That is the whole goal of this one. The server is going to be a little bit interesting. We'll talk about this modeling as well. But first of all, we know that there will be some files and folders into this one, specifically the tables in that. We'll be having comments, we'll be having questions, we'll be having answers, we'll be having votes. We want to keep them as a separate table structure for them. We'll discuss later on about the relationship and entities and whatnot. But I think it's important that we go ahead and create these files first. So let's go ahead and create touch, and we'll be going inside the server. I think it would be good if I just go ahead and cd into servers and then start creating here, because there are many of them. So the first one is going to be answer.collection.ts. So this will hold all of my answers. We'll be having comments or comment is good enough. Collection.ts. We'll be having questions, of course, question.collection.ts. If we have questions, we will be having vote.collection.ts. Now, one thing more, we are allowing users to upload the images as well. We don't want to be dependent on any other third party for uploading the images. We'll be using AppWrite for everything. So we'll be declaring all these things inside the storage dot collection.ts. So there we go. Storage part is done. Now, again, just like our client was able to connect on the client side, server also need to connect to the AppWrite. So for this, we'll be requiring a config.ts. Now this whole is great so far, but we also need a script that we need to run it so that in case our application is getting deployed for the very first time, we are able to structure the collection automatically. If the collection is there, that's it, we'll not do anything. But if the collection is not there, we would like to set up this collection in the first go. So for this, let's just call this one as db setup. Feel free to call it as seed. Some people like to call it as seeding the database or seeding, something like that. We'll be using this file for that. So there we go. Once I hit enter, this creates a whole lot of file. And that's why I said that we'll be creating just files in this one. Now, each of this file has a meaning, and we'll be using that. We'll be discussing quite in depth about what do you want to have. If you want to have more fields, how you can read about them from the documentation, all of that. But this is the usual structure. go ahead and define how many tables or the entry point or the data, basically entities you will be having. So each entity gets into its own file. Config is just for configuration. Setup is like seeding of the database or initializing the database. Rest of all is just pretty standard. The storage is also a collection, kind of a collection in the database, just like that. So I guess that's it. In the next video, we'll start with the client configuration. Super easy, copy paste material every single time. I have written it thousands of times, not thousands, but yeah, hundreds of times in the tutorials and not all of that. So this will give you a full idea of whenever a client, or in the Next.js, we have client component and server component. Whenever client needs to talk to AppWrite, how it can do that. Whenever database needs to talk to AppWrite, how it can do that. So I guess that's it. This video will do this much only, and let's catch up in the next video, and will be a little bit longer video. Be prepared for it. Let's catch up in the next one, and please comments. Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh, and buckle up. In this video, we're going to discuss about how the AppWrite can talk from a client component, can talk from a server component to the AppWrite, and there are SDKs available from the AppWrite. We'll be using them heavily. Not only that, I will also walk you through that where can you read the exact and precise documentation, which is really amazing, and it's not available on the AppWrite documentation website. It's actually somewhere else, and I'll walk. It's actually easy to find, but not a lot of people have discussed that. So I thought, hey, I'll go ahead and discuss about this unique hidden location about the AppWrite documentation. In this video, let's get started with that. But first, go ahead, hit that comment section and just say looking forward for the next video. Again, not a big deal. We're just looking for 90 comments on this channel. So in this video especially, please go ahead, help me out. I would be super thankful for you on that. In case you're watching this video somewhere else, please come to my channel and post a comment. That's all I'm asking. So let me just share the screen with you and discuss all the things that we need for this one. So let's handle first of all the easy part of it, because I don't think we require anything else, and we have everything. And again, I have written this code probably a number of times. We are going into the client and we are going into config, and the way how you write the config in the whole thing is super easy. So let's just go ahead and say I want to have config for quick start is also there, auth is there. Even in auth, everywhere you just go ahead and look for getting started guide. It's almost exactly the same. Account API. Yep, this is exactly the code, and this code is written on probably hundreds of places in the AppWrite. This is exactly what you need. This is exactly what we'll be needing. Why not just copy and paste this and just modify it a little bit so that we can work on. So first we'll just paste it as it is. We're not worried about that. First of all, let's go into name.ts, because I want to keep all the names to be very standardized. So I'll be just exporting them. This is almost like my constant file. So just keep it up there. I'll go ahead and say export const, and we'll be calling this one as DB. So what do you want to name this DB? What should be the value? So I'll be calling this one as main stack overflow, stack flow, whatever you want to name your database. And then I'll be saying that what should I name my questions collection? So I'll be just going ahead, I'll go ahead and say this one will be question, and I'll call this one as, question collection, because it's easier for me to refer them as question and question collection. I don't want to get confused, so I'm calling them as a variable as question collection, but in the DB it makes sense to have call them rather questions would be good. So similar to that, we'll be calling this as answers, and this one is going to be answer collection. There we go, answer collection. Similarly, we have comment as well. So we'll go ahead and say this is my comment collection, and this one will be comments. Okay, we have votes as well. So we'll be having votes, and this one will go ahead and say vote collection. We'll also have some of the attachment as well. So let's call this one as, what should we call this one as? Question attachment bucket. Yeah, that's a good name, fairly good name. And here we'll be calling this as question or questions, question attachment. Naming is still difficult. So there we go. Now that we have all the names and we are exporting them, now we can use them wherever we want to. It's not really that we are going to need it immediately, but if we need it, they are available for us. Coming back onto the config now we can see that what all we need. We can see that there is a set endpoint and set project. So these are going to require some of the environment variable. You can just load them directly from environment variable, but I can load them from env, which I imported like this. So /env, I think it was inside the app. I thought I made it the env.ts inside the app. I'll love to keep it inside my app because rest of the thing can go outside. Inside the source, I'll just go ahead and move it to the app. Again, totally up to you where you want to keep it. Update the imports, yep. Again, totally your decision, your call, where you want to keep it, move it. I think I'm happy with this in the environment.ts. Anyways, not a big decision. Okay, we'll be needing client 100%, we'll be needing account 100%, we'll be also needing avatars. Avatars are exactly like images loading, but they are a little lightweight. AppWrite automatically gives you a lightweight image for that. We'll be needing databases for sure. We'll be needing storage to store, upload all of this thing. And that will obviously come from the AppWrite. Now the step one is to create a client. I sometimes do this mistake of not creating it properly, but here we go. And in here, we need to provide an endpoint, which is a URL. So super easy. We can just go ahead and say env.appwrite. And this is endpoint. There we go. Super easy and TypeScript safe. And then we need the project ID. So again, same goes up here. Again, good practices. You can load them directly from environment variable. No such big deal. Appwrite.project ID. There we go. Nice and easy, safe. And now we are creating an account from this one. And then result. We don't need to get a result. We don't need to have all of this. We'll be just going through one by one. So first of all, just like we have created this account, you can go ahead and create a database instance as well. So databases, this gives you access to all the databases that you have created in this project ID. So that's why it's called as databases. And this will be new databases. And all you have to do is give it a client. That is. So you have database, you have account. Similarly, you can go ahead and get avatars from it. So let's go ahead and say avatars. And we'll remove this avatars. I have to write that. And finally, we have storage. So we'll go ahead and say storage. This one will be storage. There we go. I guess we'll need only account, database, avatars, and storage. If we'll need anything else, we can always come back. Now it's time that you export all of this, and that's it. Your front end can now talk to any point in the database. And we'll be saying export. We'll need to export the client. We'll need that. Client will need databases. We'll need account. We'll need avatars. What else is remaining? Storage. Yep. Storage. So there we go. Told you it's super easy and it is exactly same. Just like the AppWrite doc says, if you need account, just go ahead and export the account and use it wherever you want account.get or whatever you're using. Similarly goes for the database. You'll notice that this is exactly same in the database. They just says database, get the client. In the storage, exactly same storage client. And this exactly same is a good thing. It's a consistency in the database. I like that. All right, so this part is done and we can now just go ahead and close this. Names are done, configs are done. So there we go. Close this inside the models. The client is all done and all set. We can use it wherever, whenever we want. Now going back onto the server. So how the server is going to talk? First of all, we need to do the configuration for the server. It's not like we can just use it. And you might be wondering, hey Tesh, can I go back and just like my client talked, I can go ahead and copy this and go into config and paste it? Technically, yes, but that would not be server to server call. That will be routing through the front end, and we don't want that. Some of the things we want to talk to the AppWrite directly from the backend side. And for this, we need to go into the AppWrite docs and have to go into back in the API reference. We have SDKs as well. If I can find it. There we go at the top, SDKs. And you can see we have web SDKs. No, we don't want web. We want this server ones. So these are all client SDKs. You want to talk to from the Flutter, from the Android, React Native, you can do this. Here you go with the server SDKs. So via the server, if you want to talk via PHP, Ruby, all of that, we'll be obviously going through with the Node-SDK. So this is the one we want. And the interesting part is this documentation still is on the GitHub. Surprise, surprise. And the installation guide and everything is up here, so we can just go ahead and install the AppWrite. So let's go ahead and do that one by one. We don't need this dash save. All right, so this is what we need now. So we need SDK require and all of that. So we can just go ahead and copy paste this one. We don't need self-signed and all of that. I'll remove all of this from here because we'll be needing the environment variable. By the way, I just copy pasted it to show you. It was not meant to be there. So environment, yeah, we'll need that, and we'll just copy paste the rest of the stuff. So first, SDK require. Nah, I'm not happy with this syntax. I'll brought in my own stuff. It's not easy. I can just destructure the things on the go by saying this syntax. We're anyways using this syntax. And this one is going to be Node-SDK. Now what more we want to bring up here? Obviously, we'll start with the avatars, all the things that you brought up there, and the client. And the confusing part for the beginners is client for the front end. Client is just an instance. It's a rope that you're fetching from the AppWrite. That's it is. So we're getting client, and we're getting databases. We are getting storage, not this one, storage, and we'll be needing users. We'll be talking through the users from the back end itself, not from the front end. And now the client, we won't be going with the client like this. We can now go ahead, we have destructured it. So we can go ahead and say client equals client, and client will have a set endpoint, set project, set key. We don't need SSL certificates. It's database to database calling, SSL keys. SSH is not that much, not SSH. SSL is not that important as of now. And I can just go ahead and grab env.appwrite.endpoint. Yep, nice and easy. This one is project ID. Told you, it makes our life so much easier. Suggestions always. And TypeScript is a pro in giving suggestion. This is project ID and the secret key. Let's go ahead and say env.appwrite.api key. There we go. So all the suggestions are being incorporated, nice and easy. Now all we got to do is same stuff via the client. We can just initiate that, and this is where I say AppWrite docs are so good. I can just literally copy paste all of this into this because rest of the stuff is same. The only difference that's coming up is some stuff are going through Node-SDK, some stuff are going just with the AppWrite. All right, so we don't have account. All right, so we have database, we don't have account. We can just remove that. We have avatars, we have storage, we have users as well. Const user, users, and that will be new users, and that will also have a client as a context. And then we can just go ahead, copy this and paste it. There we go. We have a client, database, storage, users, avatars. Okay, looks good. So there we go. First part is solved, that we have gone through with all the configurations and stuff. So I think that's a good start. Now let's see that how we are going to model the database. Once we model the database, then we will go through with setting up a seeding of this one. Let's start with the questions because that is the most complex of all that we have as of now. And I'll walk you through with one of the bugs that I faced. Probably that's not there right now, but hey, it might be there. All right, so you might notice that how can I actually go ahead and create a database onto this one? So we have a lot of options and a lot of ways how we can do that. For example, you might notice that here it is. If you want to create promise users, you can create the users like this. Similarly, you can create any collection. And obviously you want to read more about the docs here. So where to read them? You have to go into the docs/example. And in these examples, you can see there is a documentation for almost everything that you want to work with. For example, I want to work with the database. And inside the database, what do you want? You want create collections, you want create a document, however you want to go, you can just go ahead and work with that. So let's just say we want to create a collection. So let's just say create collection. So this is what they mentioned. You can use databases, which we have already created through the client, and we can use create collections. Inside this, give a database an ID. We can just go ahead and create an ID. Create a collection ID, and inside the collection ID you can provide name, you can provide a permission of read any. In the Appwrite, there are two types of users that they give you directly. One is any, another is UZ. And any is anybody can read from that collection, and users are somebody who is logged in. So based on this, you can just go work with that. Then the permission, if you have permission to create true, false, however you want to go that. Document security enable most of these features. It looks a little bit tedious and difficult to study at first, but as you will go through with this tutorial especially, you'll be able to do all these things nicely. One thing which I find problem is creating the index. So I guess there is a video, I saw that somewhere here, get index. I need to search that. So there is a delete index, there is a create index. So this is the portion where I found a little bit of the trouble in creating the index. Probably I was not doing it right, but I'll also definitely walk you through. I'll walk you through how to do it. I'll give you the code base of it. And at the end of the series, we'll figure it out whether that's good or not, is it working or not. And again, you need index, create index. Anyways, I'll walk you through with that. So there we go. This is how to read the documentation. Now let's go into this collection and see how we can work with that. So we'll be importing a few stuff from Node-SDK, that's obviously, and we can just create, get it on the go. So no need to fill it up here. We'll be also grabbing few of the names here. So we'll be saying that grab a few of the names, one directory back and name. What else, what the names you want to grab? I obviously want to grab a name of the database. I'll also grab a name of question collection, and that's it. And we also need to, since we are creating a database collection, we need the configuration of the database. We can go ahead and import that too. And that will come up from /config. I have created my configuration up here. Whatever you need, just import that only. So in this case, we are working with the databases. No need to bring up the storage for this one. All right, let's get a little bit of room for ourselves. Now, how do we create these questions? That is the difficult question. We have to figure it out. But once you see, you'll notice it's a copy paste syntax again and again. You can work with that. So I'll go ahead and say export default, and it's obviously an async operation. Database operations are always async operation. We're going to call this one as create question collection, just like this, classic JavaScript functions. All right, so first of all, we're going to go ahead and we'll work with a create collection. So how we can do that? Obvious step is to await that it's a database operation. Use your instance of the databases from the configuration. And then as soon as you put a dot, it gives you a help. VS Code is really nice once you have installed it. If these suggestions are not coming up to you, go ahead and reload your VS Code. Then there are a lot of options, create document and create collections and whatnot. In this case, the important one for us is create collection. Now create collection will show you that what do you need. First of all, I need a database ID. That's why I've stored that in the name so that I can bring it anytime. I don't have to retype it again. There we go, DB. Then what do you want to call the collection ID? In this case, I'll call this one as a question collection. So there we go. Question collection is being created. All right, then the next step is question collection. What do you want to name it? I guess collection ID. So I think that's the same. Database ID, collection ID, and then we get the name of it. Let's call it this one as question collection as well. We'll see and figure it out. Then requires is the set of permissions. This one is interesting. So permissions. Now permission depends on what do you want with the questions. I want anybody can read the questions on this, but only the logged in user are allowed to create it, update it, or delete it. So how to do that? First of all, this permission. So permission actually comes up from Node-SDK. So permission, once I have this permission, I can go ahead and say permission. And I want that read information should be by any. So in this, you can just provide a string of any. I'll walk you through that where it is and how it looks like. So just go up here, and what you will notice is, let me just go back into the settings. There we go. These are the roles. You can create as many roles as you wish. By default, there are two roles, any and the users. Users are who has logged in. Any is somebody who is anyone who is visiting your website. But there is no shortage of it. You can just click on it and add role for the guest, for selected teams. If you're using role-based access, that some team is teacher, student, admin, something like that, you can go ahead and do that. So you get the idea how it is there. And again, everything is lowercase. That's goodness. Then you can go ahead and provide that who can read further. So I'll just go ahead and do users should be also allowed to read. So we'll be saying users. And again, this requires a comma. This also requires a comma. There we go. Rest is pretty simple and pretty obvious. So we can just go ahead and say create, read is already there, and update. And there we go, delete. There we go. So anybody can read from this questions collection, and users can perform all the CRUD operations onto this one. So hopefully once this is all done, let's do a console log that question collection is created. Question collection is created. All right, this is where things are there. Now let's go ahead and create the attributes and index. So this is what we have done so far. A collection is just created. Now inside that collection, we need attributes. Let me walk you through again how this looks like. So notice here, this is my collection. So words is a collection and it has all these features or whatever we have mentioned. Now we need to create attributes and index inside it. This is how it looks like. So whatever the attributes you have, for example, in our questions collection, we figured out that we'll be going with the collection of attributes of title, tag, content, author ID, attachment, and we have all these variations of the enums and whatnot so that you get a brief idea about it. Indexes, this is where I faced a problem, so I had to manually create it, but I'll walk you through that how the code actually looks like. Probably we was not able to create it, but again, you can later on do it. So this is our first part. Let's go and move on to the next part, which is creating attributes and indexes. All right, how to create these attributes. So attributes are usually created on the one go, but you have no idea that on what order they'll be creating. So it sometimes is difficult to create these attributes because when you create manually, you can just click on one and click on one. In such scenarios, our best friend in JavaScript is actually promise. And in the promise, we can use a .all so that however it can actually do all of this. We'll be using an array of all the promises so that we can just provide all the values. So first of all, let's go into databases. Again, the long process is there. Databases, but it's repeatable. And we'll be using create, not comma, dot, create attributes, no suggestions. Probably create string attributes. So you have to mention that. So again, we will be having database here. We'll be having the name, which is question collection. And what do you want to call this attribute? String you have to pass on. So this one is going to be called as title. Feel free to use. If it is title, what should be the size? Title, I guess, is 100 is good enough. By the way, in case you want to see that what all options are there, you can just anytime click on any attribute and can see string, integer, float, boolean, date, time, email, IP, URL. All these are available. So you can just pick any one of them. Let's just say you pick up string. So you know that attribute key, the size, what should be the default value, is it nullable, required, array, all these options you can just go ahead and provide it there. So just like they are in the order on the website, they're ordered up here as well. So there we go. So we have these DB questions, title 100 is there, and we'll be calling it as true. So there we go, required. Yes, this one is required. And I guess that's it. Yeah, that is it. So this one is my title collection. So what else a question can have? Put up a comma and have a duplicate. That is the best one and the best thing that we can provide. All right, so this one is going to be DB question collection. This one is going to be content, and content should be big. So it's going to be 10,000 because we will be storing markdown inside it. That's why it is required to be a little bit big. We cannot do much into this one. All right, so what else do we have? We will also be keeping an author ID into this one. So we'll be saying this one will also be a string, and DB, we will be having question collection. This one is going to be author ID, who is the author of this one. And we'll be saying this one is probably 50 should be fine. We can just figure out later on this one. And this one is also attribute string. What else we have? Let's just check. And author ID, we have attachment ID as well. We have tags as well. All right. Let's go ahead and figure them out one by one. So first of all, this one is going to be tags, and tags 50 is true, and tags could be undefined as well. Let's go ahead and undefined, and we are accepting empty array, so it could be undefined, and array of strings, so we'll be saying true. By the way, you can figure this out just by clicking up here, and if you notice here in the string there is an array, so we are marking this one as true. Very nice visualization there. All right, what do we have remaining? Attachment ID. All right, let's go ahead and do one more. This is also a attached string attribute, db collection, and we'll be having tags. This one will be attachment ID, and attachment ID 50, and we'll be saying false. Okay, so there we go. This is our attachment ID, and this is not required. This is a type of string. Everything is a type of string, so that's why we just use this one. All right, so this should be all good, and once this is out up here, we should be able to do a console log here saying question attributes created. All right. Now let me walk you through with the part which we were not able to do, but how you can do it. So we can just leave the code here. And this one is, we have to do it manually. Create index says. We found a little bit of a problem into this one, but I'll walk you through with this one. So again, same goes with here. You have to use await, and then again, there are multiple indexes that we are creating. So we can use promise.all and provide an array for all the fulfillment of the promises. And the way how we do it is simply databases, and then you simply go ahead and use create index. There we go. Just a simple method. And in that you provide all the details that we have been passing so far. So in the DB, we'll be going into questions collection. And once you are inside the question collection, how you want to create the index, just exactly how it's being done in the manual up here, exactly same in there. So indexes, once you click on create index, you first select what do you want to name this index. In this case, I want to name it as, for example, title. All right. What up next? What is the index type? It could be unique or full text search. So you just mention up here index type and put up a dot. Full text search or key or unique. We'll go with the full text search. And then after that, you provide the parameter names on which the attribute name where it is there. So it is tag, title, content, whatever, or this is created at, updated at, whatever you are going for, and then the order of it. So in our case, we can just go ahead and say it like this. So we'll have a title just like this. That's my attribute. And we want it to be ASC. So we'll be going and say like this, and there we go. So this is the first one that you create. And similarly, you can just go ahead and duplicate this, put up a comma, and another index that we want to create is on content so that we can search on it. Content, index type, full text search. This one is content. You just go ahead and try it out. Maybe it works for you. It didn't work for us. So we just actually commented this code. So I'll just leave this code as it is for you. Maybe you want to try it. That's how everybody does. And there we go. So this is the way how you create your collection. And once you know this, this is exactly a copy paste in every single schema that you're working on. Figure out that how many of the indexes or documents you want to work with. Like this is the documents that we have. How many attributes you want to add. In this case, the questions has title, tags, content, author ID, and attachment ID. Then since we were not able to make these things programmatically, we went up here, click on here, added this one. We called this one as index, this one as full text search, this one as title, and this one same, created that, and there we go. Our database is now indexed. It will be helpful for searching. So we created 2 of them manually in the questions. Let me walk you through how we did with the answers as well. So answers, the attributes are simple. There are content, the question ID, and the author ID, who is making these answers and where you are making these answers, and the content, whatever you are writing. Similarly, we have comments as well. So comments are actually comments for the questions. So again, the attributes are pretty simple. We have type, which is enum. I'll walk you through how to do the enum as well. And then content, we are storing that, and the type ID and the author ID. So this is for the comment. By the way, you can just go ahead and work on with more of these. I'll walk you through. And then questions we have already worked through, and votes are exactly same. No other indexing we have done so far. So voted by ID, then we have type ID and the type and the voting status. So this is all what we have done. Now let me go ahead and quickly add rest of these collections as well, because watching me typing is not going to add any value to you. It's just going to add the length of the video. I don't want that. I want you to learn from them. So exactly same thing we'll be copying and pasting. So let me just pause the video and start writing them, and then we'll discuss that what I have written and where I have faced the problem, if any. All right, so I did all the work, and let me walk you through. It's not gonna be like that I will be skipping anything, no. And whole code base will also be available on my GitHub ID so that you can match it and discuss them. And if you have more questions, our Discord is open. We have a dedicated team there to answer a lot of your questions. So let me walk you through with what all we have done. So questions we discussed quite thoroughly in depth, and I showed you what are the problems that we faced. Hopefully you might not face that. If you face, go ahead and manually create those indexes. In the answers collection, it was pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and the things was we were creating a collections, simple permissions for users, read permissions for any, but rest of the CRUD operation for users only. After that, we created the attributes. So we created a string attribute, and string attribute, nothing much. So answers is comprised of content, question ID, and author ID, nothing else, nothing much. In the comment section, there was a new attribute which we haven't discussed together, but it's fairly easy. So we simply go ahead and create these permissions first, super easy. And then we simply go ahead and create attributes, string attribute, super easy, content. Then the new attribute that came for us is create enum attribute. What additionally comes in the enum attribute is an array. That's it, array of strings. And our attribute for the comments can be on the questions or can be on the answer. So we are just adding this answer and question. That's it, nothing else. And then there's a string attribute, exactly same, copy paste. Then the storage collection is little bit different, nothing much, but little bit different. Here we actually get or create a storage. Storage might be already there. So if it is already there, we just go ahead and get the bucket. So we simply say is question attachment, get that bucket. So storage connected. And if the storage is not there, then we try to create it. So we simply say await storage.create bucket, question attachment bucket, and all these names are given. Permissions are given, and then all the details. So in case you have never created any bucket onto this one, simply go ahead and click on the here it is, storage. And when you click on create a bucket, it just asks you all the details and all the settings. So I can show you the settings that we have. So this is our question attachment bucket. And just click up here, and there we go. All the settings that we have is up here. So all these permissions, exactly same. You can have file security and all these details and all these values. We are allowing the extension of JPG, PNG, and all these things. And this is all. This is all what we have mentioned, all these details up here. So storage is being created just like this, and it is always going to be created like this. So that's the good part. Then comes up is the vote, final one, nothing much, exactly same copy pasted stuff. Votes can be seen by anyone, but CRUD operation can only be performed by the users. And then we simply create an enum. You now know the enum part very well, question or answer. And then we simply say type ID is also enum, means what type of vote it is. Is it upvote or downvote? Then we simply go ahead and simply create an attribute for voted by, who created that vote. And that's it. That's it. Told you, it's really, really simple, nothing to be worried about. Now comes up is the DB setup part. This we'll do together because it's little bit important, but again, nothing much. We are bringing up everything in here and we are just running the functions. That's all what we are doing. So first of all, let's go ahead and import DB from the name so that we can have it. Now, since we have imported so much of this, create answers collection, then we have import, create comment collection. We have to bring in everything, and we have to import, create question collection, and then we have to import vote, create vote collection, create vote collection. There we go, nice and easy. We'll also need the database from the configuration. So we'll say that we'll be needing databases from the config. There we go. My own config, not the config from the client. All right. Next up is, let's go ahead and say export default async simple function, which says get or create DB. That is it. That's it. Now this function will be responsible for calling all of this. So we can just go ahead and first try whether we have already this existence or not. So we can just go ahead and say try catch. In the try part, we will be await and we'll say databases dot get, and if they are able to get the DB. If they are able to get the DB, we'll say that this already exists, and we'll say console log database connected. In case the database is not connected, then we simply go ahead and have to run all of this. Now, while running all of this, there might be cases that things might go wrong again. It's always a good idea, even though we are in the catch block, that wrap up everything inside the catch block as well. Again, let's handle the try part first. So we'll say await, and we'll say databases dot create. And the first step is to create a DB. So we'll say create a DB, comma DB. So there we go. We are creating a database. This technically should be saying database created. The step one is to create a database. Database created. All right. Now job is not done. Now we have to create a collection. So we'll say await, and there are so many collections that we are creating. So it's best to wrap it up as promise.all. There we go. Now what we have to do is get all these things. So we'll go one by one. First of all, let's create a questions collection. Then we go ahead and create a answers collection. There we go. And comma. And then we go ahead and create the comment collection. There we go. Execute that. And vote as well. So create vote collection and execute that. All right. So now technically all the collections are being created. I can write it here. Create collections would be good. So there we go. At this point, we should have a console log that collection is being created successfully. Collection created. These console log messages are your best friends. All right. Once this is all done, I think we should have the database connection as well. So should be all good. Console log, and we'll be saying database connected. And if there are errors, we can scroll this. If there are errors, never hesitate to dump down the errors as well. Error creating databases or collection. You figure out where the error is, but we can just go ahead and have the error. There we go. And once we are done with this, in no matter what case we are doing, we are actually returning the databases. There we go. We have an instance of databases which is connected somehow. So there we go. Nice and easy. We have gone through. So this is the whole process of how we actually work through. We haven't used an index, but we'll keep it there. Not bothering us much. But there we go. This is how you create your entire data modeling in the AppWrite using the NextJS or any backend or any similar kind of application that you're using that supports. And the best part is it is exactly same in JavaScript or any other language that you're using. It is exactly same API interface that they gives you. So there we go. This actually sums up our part. We'll be using it definitely. No worries on that part. But this video was whole about how we can have all these things all together. By the way, reach out us on to Discord in case you face any problem, or in case you are new here, comments, don't forget that. That's the important part. Let's go ahead and catch up in the next video. Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh and welcome back to the series where we're building the Stack Overflow clone, and on the journey we are learning so many things. So in the last video we worked on the models and we tried to work with the code part of it. In this video, first of all, we're going to see that how we can spin up all that model into the database itself, and where could be one of those ideal places where you might want to spin that up. And of course, there are many other places where you can inject that code and spin all the code bases that we want. Apart from this, we are going to also be working with Zustand, the state management library that we'll be using. This video will cover pretty much everything that you need to know about Zustand, and it's a very lightweight and pretty nice library to work on with. Very straightforward. You don't need ton of stuff or ton of setup or the setup things that we need to go through with this. Really straightforward. I love this library quite a lot. So we'll be going through with that. Before we go further with that, the comment target in the comment section is just 100 comments. If you don't know what to comment, just say looking forward for the next video. It's really a great moral booster for me. And in case you haven't yet subscribed, right now is the right time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So let me share with the screen a screen video, and we'll be walking through with all the stuff. And where can I share that? There we go. All right, so we're onto this mode. Now we are going through with all these details. So this is all that you can see. We'll be running this. So just to give you a brief overview, we worked with the client, all the configurations are done. Hopefully there is no typo with that. And with the server, we worked with the first, the configuration part, we imported everything. Then we worked on the models one by one, the question models and all what details and all these things. We also worked, and I walked you through that creating the index is possible this way. We'll try this out again one more time. So maybe the error was just once fluff there. We'll try to work with this part as well. And then comment collection and all these things, they are straightforward copy paste of what we did. And if you have more collections like this blueprint can actually work with that. So with that said, now we want to run these applications. Now, one thing that I did a mistake, and I don't know if I should correct that or not. I think I should correct that because if you notice, this is a storage collection, but this is not a collection of the storage. This is actually a method which creates the storage whole thing. So I don't know what to name this properly. I think saying this is a storage collection would not be an ideal one, but again, it's just a naming convention. I think I would love to change this one. So I'll just go ahead and rename this one. Instead of calling this one as a storage collection, I would like to call this one as storage setup. I think that would be a better name, but again, it's just a name. If you wish, you can just keep it as it is. I think that's a better one. What we're doing inside this one is we are creating a storage bucket. Rest of those are dealing with the database setup. So that's why we call them into the DB setup, and we skipped explicitly this storage because we don't want to create a mess between the database stuff and the storage stuff. So we want to keep it separate. But since I don't know any other place to keep it separate and segregated, so I just have that. So this is just my concern here. Again, now the important question is, where should I call these DB setup and storage setup? And there are many ways how you can do it, and there is no right or wrong. Maybe as soon as your application starts, you want to just fire them up there. So inside the app, maybe the layout, as soon as the layout just sets up, you can just spin it up there. Again, no big deal there. Wherever you think you want to start your application for the first go, you can run this up. Now, one ideal thing which I think is there and is possible is actually the middleware. Now, middleware, in case you have never worked with the Next.js, is a really nice place where you can just go ahead and put a lot of things and can start them on any particular route or any particular page where you want to have. Now, where to put this middleware, that's an interesting question altogether. So in my case, since the source is the directory where everything is going on, I would love to keep all the files. Like, in fact, I have to keep all the files up here. In case you are not using the source, then you can keep it just outside in the root directory itself. But for me, since it's source, I have to create the middleware inside the source. This file needs to be specifically named as middleware, nothing else. No middlewares, no S. It just is a middleware. Middleware.ts. And in any case or any time, if you forget that how the middleware and everything works, Googling up is always your best friend. So I can just go ahead and say middleware and the Next.js. I can just work with this and routing the middleware. So they also mentioned that where to keep this file, always keep it as middleware.ts. In the TypeScript, this is how it looks like and all these things. Let's go ahead and copy this so that we can just work with that. I don't remember this file exactly always. I just go ahead and come back here, copy this always and go back up here. So there we go. We have imported these all things. Now let's understand that how it actually works. A lot of people make a mistake of how it is supposed to work, but I'll walk you through that how it actually works. So this first thing is import statements, nothing to worry, and it is really required that you work with the next request and the next response. Your classic request and response, they also can work, but Next.js actually runs some additional functions and methods and do some its behind the scene magic so that everything works flawlessly. So it is important that you go ahead and use next response and next request from the next server itself. That's important. The next thing is, what is the function that you want to run? So this is your middleware, and this function runs everywhere. Yeah, this function runs everywhere wherever you want to work with this. And then comes up is this config, and where you see this matcher. So matching paths below to learn more. So what is this all going on? So this configuration and especially this matcher object, make sure that it matches whatever the path matches with this matcher object. Whole of this code is not going to run there. So this middleware, again, really important to understand, whatever the path you are matching, our code will not run there. All right, let me repeat that again. Wherever the matcher matches the path, this method, this middleware will not run there. Yeah, that's the thing. So let me go ahead and fix up this matcher first so that you actually remembers it all the time. So first of all, this one says match all request paths except for the ones that starts with. So what I don't want to work with this in this case, that I think it would be better if I go ahead and use this comment and leave it there so that you also go ahead and keep it as a memory always, for always. So what it does, whatever the path matches, our code will run, middleware will run, except the ones which are matched by the matchers. So what I want to do in this case, so I want that my code should not run anytime whenever I'm hitting an API route. I also want that it should not run anytime when I'm hitting the route which is underscore next static, because that's where the static assets are being served, static. Also, I don't want that my middleware should run anywhere when I'm serving the images. So next images or image. And I also don't want that anytime my favicon is being served directly, so it should run there. And again, I don't remember or I don't know the regex to work with that. So I go ahead and simply work with converting this whole thing into, first of all, array, just like this, because you can have multiple of these routes. And then I went into the ChatGPT that, hey, give me this path with the regex, because I'm not good in regex and I'm pretty sure you are also not. So I asked ChatGPT to give me all these details. When you precisely ask ChatGPT that, hey, give me the path which actually selects all of this as /API right, this route and this route and this route, it gives you the whole pattern, and nobody cares about the patterns much. Now, the whole idea is that apart from these particular routes, this middleware function will run everywhere else. If you want to add more, you can just go ahead. This is just an array. For example, you want that my middleware should not run on /login. You can just go ahead and mention this login. If you want that my middleware should not run on the home page, you can just go ahead and mention this / as well. That this will, again, this needs to come before this whole pattern matching. So this needs to go up here. Again, I'll not go much into depth of this. This is a classic Next.js 101, but hope you get this part. Now, this is a nice place where I can go ahead and inject and start creating and populating my databases and storage. So let's go ahead and bring this up. Hopefully the auto suggestion will help me in doing so. So let's go ahead and say import get or create DB. There we go, nice and easy. And I will also go ahead and say import get or create storage. And again, it's up to you. You want to go with the / or you want to go @ totally up to you. Now I'll come back here and I'll say, before I go ahead and redirect home and all this, I don't want to do that. I want that this should actually keep on working forward. So I'll just go ahead and say next response dot next, so that this is important part. Whenever you're writing any middleware manually, you have to give this dot next so that it moves on either to the next middleware or keep on doing its regular stuff. So that's my part. But before doing that, I want to just await and I want to run a promise. Again, this is going to be promise.all because I'm running multiple of them. And inside this, I'll provide an array. And this is not an async, so it should be an async function. And there we go. Async. Should be all happy now. All right, what all do you want to do? In this one, the first thing that I want to do is run this get or create DB. That's the first part I want to do. After that, I want to simply run get or create storage. So there we go. Now, hope you understand this part. Whenever our home page is being served or login page is served, this will make sure that we either get the database and store that as an instance, or we simply go ahead and create the database if it doesn't exist. Let's save this and try to run this and see how many errors we are going to go through. So npm run dev and should be all up and running. Now let's go ahead and fire this up and see what's happening in the console log. So we can see all the console log being populated. We can see that the whole storage is being created, database created, storage created, questions, comments, vote, answer created. So if there is any error, we obviously would have seen that here, but I would love to verify that again one more time. I need to refresh this. I hope this would be auto refreshed, but hey, we can just simply click and we can see all the questions and everything is created. Attributes should be there, whatever we need. Indexes we don't have because we explicitly commented that out, but right now is the good time to test it out, whether this time it works. It didn't work in our first go. So we'll just go ahead and say questions collection, and inside the questions collection, I would love to now uncomment this so that it automatically can create the indexes for me. But if it doesn't, I'll again come back and comment that and I'll manually create that. All right, so the easiest way to do it is, I think I can just delete this whole thing because it's going to be automatically repopulated. So just click and delete the database. I don't need to remove the storage. If it is already there, it's not going to be bothering us much. So I can come back on here and just hit a refresh, and I think rest all should automatically be populated. There we go, nice and easy. We got all the error creating database or collection, attribute not available. This is the stuff that we faced in the initial time as well. So attribute not available, I don't know whether it's taking some time or something like that, because this is exactly the error we faced, that it was not able to create this. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does. It's not always a failure. I don't know if it's something wrong on the Appwrite side or we are doing something wrong. Probably there's something issue because the creation of this whole thing probably is taking a lot of time and our promise is not coming back. So probably we need to restructure the code something a little bit better, or we need to create it as a separate file so that indexing can be done. But again, let me try it one more time. Just stop this and delete this. So one more time I can check this out. If it doesn't work, we'll create it manually. Again, this is the real world development. That's how it works. You go ahead and test out the stuff on the go. npm run dev. Let's go ahead and try to open this up. And should be all. Oh, one more. I have one more way to actually work with this. I'll show you that as well. And there we go. Storage created. I think this is still going on. All right, so storage and everything is created, but hey, this is still giving us issues. So let's go ahead and kill this out and try to create. That's the issue I was talking about, but I was able to do it once or twice during the testing phase. So I'll just go ahead and comment this out so that it doesn't bother us much. There we go, should be all good. And if I go ahead and hit a refresh on this one, oh, why is it? Oh, I stopped it. We can just go ahead and manually create these two indexes. And should be storage connected, everything is connected. All right, so let's go into the Appwrite. And surprisingly, I was able to do it just before recording the video. So Stack Overflow main is there, and we have questions. And we have attributes, now the indexes, and oh, one was created. That's surprising. Title was created. Probably if I can do it a little bit better architecture of the code, probably I'll be able to do it. Probably I'm doing something wrong then. So we were able to create indexes on the title with all the things. So title is there, full text search, the attribute is title and ascending. So title, full text search, title and ascending. Let's go ahead and create another one, which is for the content. So super easy. Create the index. Let's call this one as content. This is going to be full text search. The attribute is going to be content, ascending, and create. That's it. Told you it's super simple to work on with. All right, so there we go. Now we have both of these attributes all done. So database is set up. We were able to see, figure out, learn on the go, and I think the database part is all sorted. All right, so now that the database part is all sorted, let's move into the Zustand. And by the way, who are watching, please put that in the comment section, as this is the Zustand starting part. So timestamp would be really, really awesome and helpful. So for this one, we'll be using Zustand. Let me go ahead and walk you through. There are so many state management library that you can use with Next and React. I will be going with the Zustand. This is the homepage of the Zustand. This is how nice, cute bear is there, and it gives you idea of how it works. What I want to walk you through with that is the documentation of the Zustand, because this is where things gets a little bit interesting. Let's go up here And I want to go into the docs. There we go. This is the docs. Dark mode would be good. There we go. So Zustand, it's a state management library which actually simplifies a lot of your tasks. Now, you might have heard about the state management library like Redux, Redux Toolkit, Zotai. There's so many of them. Zustand is the straightforward of them all, and it's the super easy to work on with that. As you can see, this installation phase is npm install Zustand, super easy. So let's go ahead and first walk through along with the documentation. We'll copy this and we'll say that, hey, we need to work with a Zustand. A new index would be good. Zustand is installed, pretty lightweight, pretty easy. Then it asks you to create the store. All right, so we'll be creating the store, and then we need to bind the component with that. I'll walk you through with the steps that we are going to take. Not only the steps, we also need to work with some of the middlewares as well. So as you can see, the integrations, if I can just move it a tiny bit there, it's easier for you to see. As you can see, there are integrations available. One is the immer integration, which is super helpful. We'll be using this. And we will be also using the persistent store data. So these are the two of the integrations we'll be using. Why for that? Immer is the library which allows you, so there is one thing in the state management thing is you never mutate the state. You never change the existing state. You always create a new state so that there is a list of all the things that you're doing. Immer is one such library which makes things easier. There is a way of how you write the code in the state management library. It was really such a pain to work with the state management library like Redux, because every time I have to take care whether I'm changing the state or not changing the state. I can accidentally change the existing state and it can like haywire my entire code. But with the implementation of this immer library, which is also there in the couple of others as well, this allows me to write the code the way I want to write. I can modify the state, I can change the state, but under the hood, it actually keeps the state all the time persistent. I am always mutating the new state. I'm not mutating the existing state. So that's where the immer library comes in. Another one that is there is the persistent storage. So immer is super easy to work with that. We have to install this. So let's go ahead and grab the immer as well. We'll be using this. Some of the libraries actually install immers for you automatically behind the scene. Zustand doesn't. You have to install this. Another one that we'll be using is persistent data storage. You don't have to actually grab it. It actually comes from the Zustand middleware as well. What it does is it allows you to persistently store all the states in your local storage. So we'll be walking you through that how actually it works and how you can create a local storage or a persistent storage of all of this. This is useful, especially for the Next.js, because Next.js runs on the edge and we need something like this. Without this, the state management libraries are not going to work. Specifically, we will be using this on rehydrate store. This option enables you to pass a listener function that will be called when the store is hydrated. That means, obviously, we are storing the data in our local storage. Somebody needs to bring that data back from the local storage in our application. And that's what the hydration means in terms of the Zustand. So on rehydrate store, and we'll be working. So we'll be just going through with this one simple function, super easy to work on with. So there we go. Now let me walk you through with the steps that we'll be taking, because sometimes it goes a little bit haywire. I don't want to do that. I want to be very specific that what we'll be doing. So let me go ahead and write all these steps. First of all, we'll be working with the import statements. So imports, for example, we need the models, any of the AppWrite SDK. So all these import statement will goes in the first step. Then in the next step, what we need is the interface definition. Since we are using TypeScript, the next step always is to write interface definitions. This is simple. We just define what methods are going to be created, what's the expected output from those methods. If we're using any variables, we just mention them. After that, we're going to go ahead and create a Zustand store. So that's the basic 101. Whenever you're using any such library, go ahead and create a store. And in this store, Zustand store itself will be going through with the two libraries. The first one is going to be setup of the immer, which is super easy. And another one is going to be a simple persist. So these are part of the Zustand. So I can just link them up and can just go like this, that, hey, this is all one simple thing, or all the things. Now, once we are done with this and our store is being created, then we can just go ahead and start with the store state and methods. This is where the actual logic and actual working happens. So what's the store looks like, what's the variables, what's the object inside it, and if there is any method like creating a new user, logging out a user, finding if there is an existing user that is there, or creating an account, logging in, all these information goes up into these methods. So actual functionality part goes into this one. Now, one thing we are done with this one is, actually it comes before and after as well. So this persist thing, we need to work after the functionality as well. And after that, we'll talk about this last method that is there, which is for rehydration. There we go. So this is our step, and I know it looks like a lot, but it is not. It is not. Once you start working with it, you'll find that, hey, this is fairly easy. And we'll be referring this guide again and again quite a lot. So there we go. You have all of your details. Now let's go ahead and create a store and start working with that. All right, so rest of things can go away. There we go. We can close this. And app, we have model. I think we should be keeping that inside a new folder. That would be good. Let's create inside the source a new folder that we're going to call this one as store. Feel free to call this anything. No such restrictions on naming this. I'll create a new file which will be called as auth.ts. So this will be my store whole thing that we'll be going through. Now, a couple of import statements. What we are going to need for this one. First, we are not going to need to create a store. So we're going to go ahead and say import, and we'll be needing a create. This create is going to come from the Zustand so that we are able to create our store. The next thing that we need is the immer library so that we don't really care about how the library is getting changed or mutated, just like that. So we have Zustand middleware, which comes up as a immer. Another thing, to persist the things, we need the persistence. So we'll be saying persist, again, Zustand middleware. There we go. So these are my libraries which are required for me from the Zustand side. Now, obviously, I need more so that I can write the functionality for that. And these all things are going to be coming up from the AppWrite itself. So I can just bring them up from the AppWrite. And since this is going to be login based, I am just using AppWrite, not the Node-SDK. If you want to persist more stuff from the Node as well, there's no need, I guess, because those things actually happens on the server itself. But again, it's your choice. So I'll be using one of the AppWrite exception because things go wrong. So I'll be using that one. I'm on the TypeScript. I'll be using the ID and I'll be using the models from it. So that's my personal one. And I'll also need some of the configuration, but from the client side configuration. These are from AppWrite. So we'll be saying I'll be needing account, and that account will come from the client config. There we go. Nice and easy import. There we go. So this is all what we have as of now. Now we'll be creating some reputation for the user. So what is this reputation? We're building a Stack Overflow. We will be creating a user's reputation. Each user will have its own reputation based on how many upvotes he have, how many downvotes he have. So based on that. So I would love to create a separate interface for this one. This is TypeScript 101. So this one is user prefs, and just like that. And this one we'll be calling it as reputation, and this will be a number. In case you are storing more users preference and reputation, and again, this should not be here. There we go. If you have more users preferences like their dark mode, light mode settings and all of this thing, that can also go up here. Depends on what application you are creating. Once I'm done with this, then the very first step that is I'm doing right now is the interface. All the interface that you are trying to use or you have intention to use, you have to write them up here. I'm going to go ahead and create a pure interface this time. And I'll be calling this one as iAuth store. Again, iAuth store, feel free to name it whatever you like. In this interface, I have to mention what all the data will come up. This includes all the variables and the methods. So first for me is going to be session, whether the user has an existing session or not. And I can find that up simply by using the models.session. And this is given to me by the AppWrite itself. And there are chances that this could be null. There is no session. There are high chances of that. So that's my first variable. I'll also be using JWT maybe. And during the login, the JWT works. So JWT is a string, and there are chances that it could be null as well. So that's the next one, null. After that, we have a user. There are chances if the user might exist. So for this one, I'll go ahead and say this is my models.user, again given to me by the models. And for this one, there are chances there could be a user, and there are chances that it could be a null. There we go. Now in this one, this is giving us a simple error. just because this user, it has no idea how does the user looks like. So we'll be creating an explicit user, which is going to be generic type. So let's just go ahead and say that this is going to be generic type. And inside the user, we are expecting that at least a user preference might be there or might not be there. Again, totally up to you. If you want to just go ahead and create a user with, hey, my user will have name, email. So go ahead and mention that here, name and email, and just pass it on up here. All right. And then one last thing we'll be having for the variable type is hydrated. So whether I'm already hydrated or not. So I'll load this one as Boolean. This hydrated thing, I'll be making it dependent on the stand itself. All right, it looks so many unknown things right now, but it will all get clear. This is the toughest part, is the interface. You don't write functionality in it. You just make sure that you are writing what is intended. So we'll be having a method. We'll call this one as set hydrated. What this method will do, we'll work on the functionality part later on, but this method will be returning nothing. So I'll just say void. This gives me nothing. Basically, this will be responsible for checking or putting things into the hydration, whether they are good or not, they are coming back from the local storage or not. That's it. We'll also have a method. Let's call this one as verify session. There we go. What this method will return? This method will return me a promise. And that promise might have data, might not. We'll figure it out later on. So I'll just go ahead and say it doesn't give me anything apart from the promise. We'll have a method. Obviously, we want to log in the user, create the account. Let's start with the login. So whenever somebody is creating a login method, he will be passing me a couple of variables. So let's just say he passed me an email that will be in the string format. It also gives me a password that will also be in the string format. And once it does it, it returns me back a promise, just like this. And inside the promise, there might be a generic object, which gives me a success. This is AppWrite 101. Boolean, which is true or false, whether the login was successful or not. And there could be errors as well. So I can just write one more variable here, that was error. And that optionally might be there, might not be there. But if it is there, let me just go ahead and move it all onto the next line. It's much easier to see it like this. And there we go. All right. So this error might be optional, and this is the reason why actually I imported the AppWrite exception. So if the errors is coming up, that is obviously going to be AppWrite exception, but there might be a chance that it might be null. There are no errors. So there we go. So this is how you design your simple login, nothing else. There will be also one more method which will be responsible for creating the account. That could be just exact duplicate of this one. And we'll say instead of login, this time this one is going to be create account. This time you'll be giving me email, password, and you'll be giving me name as well. You can add more properties as well, but I'm happy with this. So you give me name, email, and password. This will again be a promise where I can have a success. And I guess I'm doing something wrong. Nope. This needs to be like this so that I can see what's happening. And this also needs to go like this. So this could be a success, and AppWrite exception could be there. Looks good, looks good. What else we have? We'll be having one more, which will be simple logout method. And this will be nothing much with simple promise, which will return us nothing. So we'll just go ahead and say this will be white. And there we go. So we have designed an interface that what this whole file will be doing. So this is this part, interface definition. This comes up because we are using TypeScript. If there would be no TypeScript, we wouldn't be having this. If it is a classic JavaScript, I don't have to work with any such thing. All right, so this part is done. Now let's create a stand store so that how we can do that and all these details. And once we are done with this, then we'll work about the immer and the persist. Let's go ahead and work with this. Okay, so next step, obviously we want to export this. So export const. Let's call this one as use auth store. There could be multiple stores that you can have. Usually this is only just the one store, but you can have many methods inside. We'll use the create method, which is provided us by the stand. And inside this, we'll be saying that there is an interface that it follows. And the interface we mentioned as iauth store. This create is a method. So by the way, in case this is confusing you, this is how it looks like. So create, and then inside this create, you provide a chaining method just like this. But in this case, we'll be just saying that, hey, this is based on the store. And once we are creating this store, immediately we pass on a method onto this one. We actually calls this one. And then we provide all these store APIs to work on with this one. The first one that we'll be going is persist, which is a method like this. And there could be more of these methods. I'll walk you through with this, but we'll keep everything as persist. All right, what goes inside this persist? Again, you have to go through with the documentation, but since you're watching the video, you don't have to worry about much of these things. First thing that I'll go through with is immer. So everything that I'll write, all the functionality will go inside the immer, and immer will take care that automatically the states are mutated, not mutated. I'll not worry about that part. Apart from this, I can provide some of the configuration options into this one that will help me that what should I name this store, what should it be called, because there could be more of these ones. So let's go ahead and say that this one will have a name. First, we'll finish this one, and we're going to call this one as auth. There we go, nice and easy. And then after that, we'll be using this method, which will be inside this one. So this exact method on rehydrate storage, this is exactly what we want. It sometimes takes an existing state and can work with the return, all these things. We'll be keeping almost exactly same, the exact replica that we study from here, but we'll write it on our own so that it's relatively easy to work with. So come up here and we'll be saying on rehydrate storage, just like this. This will be a method just like this. And what this method does, it actually returns. There we go, return a callback, just like this. And when it returns the callback, almost every method that you're using in the storage has an access to the state. You don't declare the state, but automatically Zustand creates one for you. If you're using another library like Redux Toolkit or something, you have to explicitly mention that. In Zustand, you don't need to. So this is what we have. And what we write inside this, we'll use a simple if statement. If there is no error, we are able to successfully load the state. Then go ahead and just pass on this state when optionally it is in the set hydrated. We don't have this method yet. It will be available in a second, but this is all what we need. So again, just summarizing this, Zustand is a pretty decent library, but once you see this, it's super easy. All we did so far was importing the stuff. Then we simply did is the interface design. Whatever all methods we need, we designed that. Every single time you create a store or create all these things like this whole thing, Zustand store, immer, and persist, the straightforward syntax is there. We use the create method where you provide the interface. The first thing that we did is we want to just persist everything. We want to keep everything in the local storage. So we are wrapping everything inside the persist. If you want to study more about the persist, you can go ahead and do so. So this is immer middleware. So you can notice exactly same steps. So everything goes inside the immer. Whatever the variables, whatever the functionality you go ahead and do, that goes inside the immer. We will be using the exact same syntax of set and everything. And this is exactly as you can see here as well. Just a second. This is where we use the create. We provide the interface. We provide this method, and then we chain on this method. So we are using exactly same, nothing coming out of the thin air. All right, so once we are done with this, we also added injection of this on rehydrate store. So we studied that and we worked with that. So that's all what we are doing. Now it's time that we actually go ahead and define our functions and variables and all these things. So super simple way to work with that is exactly like this. We use this kind of a callback, but remember the callback syntax, it's tricky. This is parenthesis, this is arrow function, and this also is a parenthesis, not the curly braces. A lot of people does this mistake. So go ahead and follow the syntax. So the syntax looks like this. We have this, then we goes like this, and then we have this. Then here we go ahead and use this set method, which is a setter. Every time you set any variables, you add any data, immer will take care that you are not overwriting the existing state. You are creating a new state following the rule of never mutate that state. That's why this state is there. Once we are here, we simply go ahead and write our big gigantic object, which has all the data that we need, all the methods, all the variables, whatever you need. I need a couple of them. So I'll have a session, which initially will be null so that no logged in user is having a session. And then we have JWT, you guessed it right. This will also be initially null. So that's the state, initial state that I have. I will have a user, which will be nobody as of now as the starting of this. And then we simply have this hydrated variable, which will be false. Initially, nothing is hydrated because there is no data to be populated. Once we are done with this, then we can start defining our methods. This will keep on giving you the errors because you are not following the IA auth store whole interface. So by the time you haven't written all these methods, this will keep on giving you the error. These red squiggly line, not the errors. The first method that we are going to work on is this set hydrated. So this set hydrated is a method. What it does, every single method is going to use set because, hey, we have to pass on everything through the immer. We go with this and we simply go ahead and say that if this method has run, we are going to call this one as hydrated to be true. There we go. And again, these are so many red squiggly line, but bear with me. This is not going to go anywhere. So this set hydrated method automatically comes up from the hydration, so on rehydration method. This is a part of this create method. It automatically takes care of all the things. You don't have to do much up here. Let's go into the persistent, and if I can find it, storage type, and if I can just copy this and search it. There we go. So this is a set hydrated message which does all the things magically for you. You don't have to do anything inside that. That's the beauty of the Zustand. I don't even have to call json.load local storage, nothing. It does all the things for me. All right. Now let's define the methods one by one, that what all methods we have. The first one is verify session. Set hydrated is done. Verify session. How does the verify session looks like? First of all, this is an async method because I'm talking to the database. Async. Did I wrote async correct? Hopefully. This one is going to be verify session. There we go. I think I can just get rid of this squiggly line if I go ahead and create all these methods first. We'll give you a little bit of the easy way. So async, and this one will be login. There we go. And after that, ooh, nice and easy. At least a little bit easy life. Async. And this one will be create account. And the final one will be async logout, which will be a method again. All right, at least less squiggly line, happy about it. So there we go. All the methods we define just like this. And inside this, you simply go ahead and write your logic just the way you write it. So super easy. So let's try to verify whether we have a session or not. So let's go ahead and work with the simple try catch. In case there is an error, we'll be doing a console log of the error. And we can just go ahead and say error. We can write more messages later on. All it does is it awaits, and we have this account access, and it can ask get session, just like this. And we want the current session, so you have to pass on a string which says current. It will give you the current user if there is one. I can just go ahead and say session, just like this, and that's going to be await. All right, and once I'm done with this, then I use this set. Consider this as a state variable, almost like a state, the React state. So we'll be using set. This is a method. Inside this method, I have an object, and I want to modify an object, which is going to be simply current. So how do we do this? Should be session just. Yeah, there we go. Session colon session, or we can just go ahead and say session. So should be all good now. Let me go ahead and quickly verify this. All right, looks good. And yes, sometimes these squiggly line go away. What I did is just hit an enter and a squiggly line went away. So there we go. We did exactly same thing here as well. Set and hydrated is true once we run this method. And that's it. We don't have to do anything much. Verify session, we inquired about some data. Then we simply went up and set the session. So there we go. Super easy. Now, in case of logging in the user, should be exactly same. So we run simply a try catch. In case of catch, we can just go ahead and console log this, and we'll say error. And what should be the try? Again, same await. We need to take a hold of the account, and this will be having a create method. So create email password session. Yep, that's the one. And this is a method which takes email. So we can pass on the email, and we can further pass on the password just like this. And once this is done, I can hold the response into a session because it gives you session back just like this. All right. Too many red squiggly line. Hate that. All right. So once the session is done, it actually stops my thinking somehow. What I can do further is I can actually, based on this, I can grab the user and the JWT. The way you do it, again, copy paste it from the docs. You go ahead and extract user like this and JWT like this. And the way how this is going to come up is await. You have to fire up a promise. And this promise needs an all, just like this, an array, just like this. And then we have to fire up two promises, two requests. The first one is simply get, which gets you a user. And the response that we are going to get back is going to be automatically the type of user prefs. Another request that we have to make is going to be account dot create JWT. So that is going to create a JWT token for me. And how can I get rid of these squiggly lines? Save this. Should be all good. I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and set some reputation for the user. Let's just say at the initial time, if there is no reputation, we're going to go ahead and create or set a reputation of 0. But before I do anything else, this red squiggly line is not allowing me to think. So I'll just go outside of this and I'm going to just do a hack. Again, you shouldn't be doing this, but hey, I'm not able to think. So I'm going to go ahead and fire back an object, which is say success, and that's going to be true. And there we go. Still doesn't really remove anything. All right, let's go work with that. So now we have at least an object of user and JWT. What should we do next? Set the reputation of the user if it doesn't exist. So let's run a simple if statement. And we're going to go ahead and say if there is no user dot prefs and optionally there is no reputation, then we simply go ahead and say await account dot update preference, no suggestion, update prefs. There we go, update preference. And inside the preference, we can just say we want to update a preference just like this and say reputation, no suggestion, reputation will be 0. And we should also say that this update preference will be type of user prefs. Oh man, too many squiggly lines, too many squiggly lines. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Once we are done with this, then let's use a set. Inside the set, we set up all these variables. We have session, we have user, and we have JWT. And I don't know why is it squiggly lines. And I should be reloading the window. There we go. Thank goodness it went. No, it's back. Why are you here? It says argument type set. Let me check this. Why this is giving me so many errors. Found it. My bad. I was doing something wrong. So the way we have designed the interface for login is it takes email and password, but no matter what happens, it returns a promise, which is success, boolean, and error. There might be some error, which is optional, but it should return a success. And what I was doing wrong is in the console log, I was just saying, hey, let's just do a console log, which is not the case. We should be returning some stuff here. So let's just go ahead and return this. And in this one, we'll be saying that success in this case becomes false. And what else? The error is going to be error. And that is going to be an instance, error, instance of, and this will be an AppWrite instance, AppWrite exceptions. If that is the case, we're going to go ahead and simply say error, or we're going to go ahead and set a null. All right, so this should be it. And this should be it. I'm returning it now. What else do you need? All right, come on. In the case of error, we are console logging. We are returning the success false. We are returning the error. What else it needs? Perhaps my code editor is behaving a little bit odd, or probably that's a TypeScript suggestion, or I should not be in the active development mode. Probably that's the case. The application is constantly running and checking all the things. It shouldn't be checking that fast. All I did was just hit an enter here. I don't know. We'll figure out, because right now there is no guarantee that this code is correct. We are just assuming that what we are writing is correct. We'll definitely go ahead and work with this, test this out, and this is how everybody works. Let's go ahead and work with this one. And what else we can do? What we can do here is, once we are having this email and password, we can actually typecast them a little bit if you wish. Not really compulsory, but let's go ahead and make it more TypeScripty. So we'll go ahead and say string, and this password could be the string. Again, the moment I touch the code, it starts just like that, and that doesn't go away. Yeah, told you, this is what's happening. This is what I was debugging. I just hit an enter, it just works. Don't know. All right, so login part is hopefully done. The creation part is comparatively easy. We just go ahead and say this will be a string, and we have this will also be a string, and then this will also be a string. And the best part which I like about this one is I don't have to encrypt the password. I just have to send all the details to the Appwrite. They will take care of everything. All right, so this time I'll copy paste some stuff. So I just want to return, not the console log. Of course I want to do the console log, but I want to get till up here. So console log return success. There we go. Copy this and I'll paste it up here. So console log is there, return success, and all these things are there. And there we go. Get some help. All right, so next up is try part. So how do we create an account? Super simple. We go ahead and simply say account dot, and we simply say create. That's it. Super easy method. And this is going to create an account. And for this one, we'll be using ID. Did we imported the ID? And did we imported the ID? Yeah, we imported the ID up here. So we can just use this to create a unique ID for this one. So whenever you're creating an account, use an id.unique so that you provide the unique reference point to this one. And we'll have the email, we'll provide you the password, and we'll also provide you the name. Order doesn't really matter in this case. And that's it. Once you are done with this, go ahead and return a success. We're not doing much in this case, so we'll just go ahead and say success is true. While creating the account, we are not setting anything up, so let's just keep it just as it is, so nothing to worry about. At least the red squiggly line is not there. And finally, last, the logout method, which is again super simple, and we have designed it simple as well. So in here, the logout just sends you a promise. No worries there. All right, so it should be all technically good. Again, same try catch. In case of catch, we'll do a console log, which is going to dump down the error. And we'll try this. We'll say await account. Just delete the session. And there are a couple of methods actually. When I studied the documentation, you see that there is a delete session, there is a delete sessions. Sessions removes all session. This session removes the current session, or you have to give the list of all the sessions. I prefer the session, so log him out from everywhere. Most important part is go ahead and set everything null in, again, otherwise he'll be logged in. So we can just go ahead and say this time the session, this becomes null. What else we have? JWT, that's important. You go ahead and make the JWT as null, and you set the user, that will also be null. If you have anything else in mind, just go ahead and make it also null. So there we go, save this and hit an enter. There we go. So this is all. I told you the Justin part was fairly easy. We just learned about we can have the persist and we can have the immer to make sure that we don't worry about the immutation or the change of the state. Persist to persist the storage of all the things. If you're using persist, it makes sense that you go ahead and also use the rehydration, which is passed on as a separate object inside the persist. And this is where you write all the methods. So that's it. That's your Zustand. Now your Zustand, and since you have exported this store, is ready to be questioned every single time or any given page that, hey, whether the user is logged in, what's the JWT, what's the session. You can use the methods for functionality like creating the account and all of that. So that is it. That is your Zustand 101. We haven't tested this out. We will definitely do that in the upcoming videos when we'll be taking down the login and the registration part. So that should be fairly simple. All right, quite a lot of stuff and almost 1 hour of a video. So that's it for this one. Hope you're enjoying this, and let's catch up in the next video. Hey there everyone, Hitesh here. Welcome back to another video, and in this video we'll be moving forward into our Stack Overflow clone, and we'll be working through the login functionality as well as register functionality. One thing important to note, I will be talking about the core functionality part of it, and we won't be discussing much of the UI. We'll be depending majority of the time on the shared CN. But in case you don't want to use that, it's totally fine. You can just put a bare minimum email field, a password field, and a submit button. That's it. It will work fine. And we'll be focusing majorly on that. On top of that, whatever the styling and the UI you want to give, I'll walk you through. You can do so. Consider this as an exercise, or just bring the code from my GitHub. It's equally same. We are majorly focused on the functional part of it. With that said, if you are new onto the channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And if you're already here, go ahead, put a comment in the comment box that says, hey, looking forward for the next video. We're putting up a target of just 150 comments. I hope we can do that. We can achieve that. A lot more people are watching it. It just takes a minute to just put a comment, and it helps me a lot. So moving on, let me go ahead and share the screen with you. So this is the shared CN that we'll be installing, and we'll be also using some of the icons. Feel free to use any icon library. I just found it to be interesting one, so I'll just copy this one and come back here. We can close all of this now, and we'll be just installing this one this time. Feel free to use any library. The icons are just icons. I don't really care too much about them, at least for this project. So this is the one. Now, apart from this, we'll be using shared CN. So in order to have the shared CN, there is the installation command and there's a NextJS. And we don't want to use this whole thing because we have already got a project. We'll be just using this one. So go ahead and copy this. And this will ask you a couple of questions. And yes, we are ready to answer those questions. So come on, there we go. Initialize the shared CN so that we can use it. Default style New York, default is fine enough. And Slate. Yeah, that's good enough. CSS variable colors, give me that. And rest of the stuff, it will automatically figure it out. Hope so. There we go. So now we have all the config.js, tailwind config, and compose, components, JSON. Yeah, everything looks good. If you have any more questions about it, you can just go ahead and read the shared CN. Now, the way how we use shared CN is you can import any of the buttons, any components up here, and the whole code of the shared CN lives inside your code base. So that's why everybody loves it. For example, a couple of things that we'll be using a little bit later is going to be label and input. So for getting the label, here is the label guide. You can just copy this, npm, copy this, and there we go. And once I paste this, add label, just like this, I go ahead and enter this one. Now what this is going to do is it will go inside my components folder, will create a new folder inside it, UI, and all of my components lives inside there. So this is called label.tsx. So all code of the label. We'll be needing the input as well. It looks good. Name and email just like this. So I can just go ahead and copy this as an npm, and we can just paste it up here. There we go. So it will just bring the component. So that's how you bring the component, and what we need is just a form to work on with that. All right, so now that is clear, and that you already know that how to work with that. Now let's go ahead and create a more of these folders and route and whatnot and all of these. So the first thing that I'll do is outside of the app, inside the source, I'll create a new folder. I'll use the parentheses for them. This is just the grouping. It doesn't affect the Next.js routing. I'm going to call this one as auth. So all of my authentication regarding stuff will come up here. I'll have two folders inside up here. The first one is going to be obviously login. Inside the login, we'll be creating a page. So yeah, that's page. So let's go ahead and start with that. Come on, why my mouse is not working? All right, so new file, there we go. And now keyboard is giving up. Page.tsx. Similarly to that, we'll create a new folder inside this one, and this one is going to be register. Feel free to call it as sign up, whatever you like. And inside the register, I'll have a new file, and we're going to call this one as page.tsx. All right, so we have two files inside the folders, and also one more file that we're going to create inside the auth is going to be a new file, and we're going to call this one as layout. This needs to be called as layout, otherwise it doesn't really work. So layout file, you might have seen already inside the app as well that there is a layout file. The whole idea behind the layout file is to have a wrapper around it. And once you have a layout folder in whatever the folder, all the subfolder and the subfiles actually are containerized inside that layout. So let's go ahead and write our own layout, and this layout is going to be based on this one. So let me open up the layout file. So this is the one. We don't need all these import statements and whatnot. We won't be using it. But this is the basic premises of having a layout. So I'll just copy this so that I can show you and we can have a discussion on this. So there we go. So there we go. This is how a classic layout file looks like. It has just the layout operations goes like this. So it has this, we won't be calling it as root layout. We will be calling it as cons, but I'll rewrite this file in a minute. So the whole idea is you have a layout file, and inside the layout file, you accept the childrens. These childrens are usually the React nodes, and you just display them. But how you display them is up to you, how you make a wrapper around it. In the case of outside template or outside layout, it wrapped everything inside the HTML. If you wish, you can wrap whole of the application with the navbar by just injecting a navbar here. So that's the whole idea behind this one. Now let me go ahead and rewrite this and recreate this one so that it's much easier for us to actually see that in action. We're going to call this one as layout. And this layout is going to be a classic JavaScript, just like that. So there we go. Once I have this layout, it's important that we go ahead and export this. This needs to be exported as default. Export default layout. So there we go. One task is done. Now, what do we do inside the layout? The first thing, if you are making any layout file, you need to expect that there will be childrens that will come up here. So there we go, children. You have to mention the data type of the children as well. So we're going to call this one as, this one will be children. And the type of the children is going to be React.React node. React node. So this whole layout is expecting that you will be passing me on some of the React nodes inside this one. Couple of things. Now what we can do is we can just ask whether there is a session or not, because if there is a session already in existence, there is no point of keeping the user into the auth section, neither on the login, neither onto the register. So how can we make a query of that? For this, we can just go ahead and extract that do we have a session, and that session can easily come from use auth store. That's the store we created. So there we go. We can just ask and borrow a variable from it. If the session is there, then hey, there is a session. If it is not there, that means user is not logged in. Similar to that, we are going to go ahead and we're going to create a router as well. This will help us to push the user here and there wherever we want. So I'm going to go ahead and use next router for this one. There we go. Nice and easy. Now let's go ahead and check this. I want that as soon as this layout loads up, I would be able to check these things. So best way is to simply have this React, and inside the React, we can just go ahead and say use effect. All right, so use effect goes like this, and there we go, just like this. All right, couple of things. We need to import the React, so should be fairly easy. We can destructure that as well. But I'll just import React from React, and that should be good enough. If you want to destructure, you can do that. No big deal there. All right, so now that we have this, now we can ask a question that if there is a session, as soon as it works, if there is a session, that means user should not be here. So we're going to say router.push. And where should we push? On the home page is good enough. So we'll be pushing that. And what are the dependencies of this one? The first one is session. As soon as the session is injected, we should reload this one. As soon as there's some change in the router, user has moved in, reloaded, whatever that is. So we'll work with that. Now, what happens in case the session is null? So if we can say if the session is there, then we don't want to do anything. We'll return the null. So there we go. So this part is good enough. So we are not working on anything. But if you wish, you can actually, since this is a layout, you can render the things inside some elements as well. I'll walk you through with that part as well. I'm going to go ahead and say I'll return. And inside the return, we can just go, if there is a session, we don't want to do that. And if there is no session, then obviously we want to load the children. So login and the register. In that case, I'll simply have a div. I will definitely add some classes in that, but later on outside this. And then we'll have a simple div. This div will also have some of these classes as well. that I'll inject later on. No such big deal. And inside this, we're going to go ahead and say that, hey, we want to load a children. That's it. So I hope this flow is pretty adjustable, pretty digestible, nothing much. If we have session, that's it, good. Don't do anything. If you don't have any session, go ahead and return, load all the childrens that are there. So everything inside the login and register will be loaded up as a children into this one. So pretty straightforward, pretty nice and easy. And we were able to ask question from the use auth store that, hey, whether there is a session or not. Now let's go into register and we'll walk with the register as well. Or FCE. So there we go, React export. Let's just call this page as register page. Yeah, that's good enough. Register page, register, whatever you want to call. That's fine. All right, so how we actually work with this one? That's interesting. Now, in order to work with the register page, a couple of things we are going to require. We'll work through with that, because I'm not much interested in showing you that how I brought in the label or how I brought in the input. That's easy part. We have done that so many times on this channel. What I'm interested in, how this whole thing is going to work through. So let's first directly work with that. Let me walk you through the whole login process, and then we'll inject the classes and the containers. That's not a big deal. All right, so how we can work with this one. First of all, we need some states. So let's go ahead and grab the states. And before even we grab the states, let's see how we will be logging in the user or how we will be creating the account. So let's just say we want to simply say create account. From where this create account is going to come in? You guessed it right. It's going to come from the use auth store. There we go. So we brought in create account from this one, and there we go. Hopefully I mentioned this one correct. Now there is also a chance that in this create account, maybe there is some processing going on. So we're going to go ahead and say const. This one is going to be is loading and set is loading. And that will be coming up from react.useState. There we go. You can destructure that as well. By default, we're going to mention that this is a false. Nothing is loading. There is also a chance that same thing might happen with the errors as well. So we'll by default get the error as like this. And in this one, we'll say, hey, this one is error. This one is going to be set error. So there we go. So error part is all done. Now comes up the interesting and the most interesting part, which is how you are going to handle the submit. There are a couple of ways. You can just mention an on-click event and can bring in all the details from the forms. I'll create a very classic form in which user just submits the form and all the data goes through it. So let's just create a simple method that says handle submit, because that's where the logic part is going to go. Obviously, this needs to be async. We don't do anything async in this case. It's talking to database. Now you can also go ahead and mention that what kind of data is going to come up. As of now, it's just an event that's coming in, and I can just go like this. Nothing wrong with this, but we can explicitly mention that what kind of event is coming up. In this case, we're going to go ahead and say react dot, and this one is a form event. There we go. Now inside the form event, we will be receiving some HTML elements. So that's even better. HTML, no suggestion, form element. There we go. Again, the more precise you can, the easier it is in the TypeScript and suggestion. The first thing you always do with all the forms is you prevent default, just like this. No big deal there. Okay, how do we plan this out? Now let's collect all the data from the form and then try to call the methods for that or evaluate that. So first we are going to say collect data. Then we are going to say validate whatever you can. All right, there we go, validate. Once you are validated, then call the store, because that's where all the functionality is. And then we have the response, and based on the response, we can work on with that. Let's plan it one by one. How do we collect the data? Collecting the data, form data is straightforward. We go like this, new form data, and inside the form data, we simply say e.current target. In case you have never done this, here's your first time. This always remains exactly same. And from this now form data, you can extract all these information. So we're going to say const, and this one is going to be, let's just say first name. It's up to you, whatever the data you are bringing in and how you are handling. So we're going to say form data dot get all the fields, whatever the fields you want to work with. I'm interested in getting first name. I'm also interested in getting last name. Let's go ahead and call this one as last name. I'm going to lowercase all of this. And similarly, we can have one more, which can say email, which is compulsory field. And we can just go ahead and say email, one more compulsory field, which is password. And there we go. So all the data, whatever the data you want to bring in, you can just go ahead and bring that data. The method is exactly same. It's form.get. And this is not that get or post request, in case you are wondering. Now validation, how the validation works, totally up to you. I'll be just keeping it absolutely simple, just like this. If there is no first name, if there is no first name, or if there is no last name, or if there is no email, and if there is no password, there we go. Then I'll simply go ahead and set the error so that I can show you the error message. So I'll just use the set error, and set error, I'll use a classic callback into this one, and I'll just set this one as please fill out all the fields. There we go. Nice and easy, handled. Now, if the things are all good, now we want to call the store. Now, when we are calling the store, first of all, the state is now in the loading state. So set is loading. Let's mark that as true. And then after that, we want to set the errors as well. So set errors. Now error goes empty because, hey, we are happy with this. At least when you're calling the store, just before that, all the errors needs to go away. Now you can just go ahead and call the method, and this method needs to be called with await. We're going to say create account, just like this, pass on all the fields. And how can we pass on the fields? Now, a couple of interesting ways how you can do this, because we have just the name. So what we can do is we can convert this. So use the backtick, and let's just say we call this one as $, like this, and say first name, and then we can have a space on our own, and then can have a last name, just like that. So database only knows just the name. So that's one field that we have provided. Then we need to provide email. So we're going to say email, and better you can just go ahead and be sure to be a two-string so that it works nicely. Oh, nice. The question mark, nicely done there. And apart from this, we can have a password as well, and that can also be a two-string optionally. Nice. I like that. And what else? Email, argument type string, undefined is not assignable to parameter to string. We don't need this actually. I'm pretty sure this is there. But why is it giving me these errors? Shouldn't be giving me. Email is possibly null. All right, there we go. Although it shouldn't be. Let me check that. Oh, got it. And that's why some people love TypeScript, and including me. So I did a classic mistake up here, and I was wondering that why is it bothering? I've already taken care of the error. The problem was I never actually returned anything from here. So if I just do a return that we are exiting, now it is 100% sure that if we are reaching at this point in the code, then everything is good and email and passwords are present. I think it should not be bothering me now with this part. If I remove this, yeah, it is, because it needs to be 100% sure. It needs to be in string. Anyways, we got the idea. So now we can just hold the response. So response, just like this. There we go. Now, what do we want to do with this response? If the response contains some error, then we want to set the error. Otherwise, we are all okay. So let's just say we conditionally check that if the response, Appwrite gives us nicely these error messages. If there is a response error, we're going to use set error, just like this, and we'll use it like that. And we'll say response dot error, that is for sure it is there. And optionally, if error is there, then not optionally, there should be a message inside this. So I'll forcefully try to extract a message out of it. There we go. And in the else case, we can just go ahead and say that, hey, everything is all good. You can just work with that. So probably we can log in the user with the same details and same response, because we have the email ID and password. If you wish, you can redirect him just onto other stuff, but I think we can log in the user as well. So let's go ahead and say, in that case, your account is created. Why not to just log in the user? I'll just say login. And can we bring the login from, it doesn't give me that suggestions. I have to bring in use auth store. Where we are using use auth store, here we are. create account, and there we go, login. Now we should be able to use it. So await login, you need to grab the email, which of course will be toString, and we'll be passing on the password, which of course will be toString. There we go, nice and easy. Now this is all done and good. Then we can say const login response. There we go. And if the login response is there, and there are chances that login response also might get troubled. If it is all good, then all good. Otherwise, it's logged in. And the rest of the part will be taken care of by our layout. So any session change or route changes, it will take care of that. I'll just take care of the error part. So if the login response has an error, then we can just simply say set error. We can just go like this, and same thing. We can say login response. If you have the error, then I would forcefully like to extract a message out of you. And we set the message. Once this is all done, I come out of this whole if and else block. Then I can simply say set is loading. Don't forget to turn it off. Is going to be false. So we can just go ahead, use it like this and say false. There we go. So nothing is loading. Everything is all good. So this is the majority of the part, and this is the logic. That's it. Now what you do inside this, it's up to you and how you want to proceed further and all of that. You can have a link of login. You can have the error messages being displayed. For example, I'll write that definitely. But if you want to show the error messages, you can start your JavaScript just like this. And can say if we have error, then we can mount a component just like this and can say that, hey, inside the p tag, I'll just go ahead and throw the error messages. Classic JavaScript and React 101. So that's the one part. In case you are wondering how the form will work, then you can simply go ahead and design. I'll definitely design a better form. We don't need action into this one. We just need the submit. That's the on submit. This one is going to say handle submit. That's it. Now the most important part inside this is there needs to be a couple of input field, the first name, the last name, and the email and the password, and that's it. After that, a button which simply is of type submit, and that's it. So that's it. I will be writing that, but I don't want to bring too much of the detail of the CSS and all these things. Yes, we have designed it much better, so I'll just copy paste that. That's more of a CSS part, not the functionality part of it. So I'll do this and you will be finding everything inside my GitHub repo. Now I would like to take you on to the login part so that I can walk you through how the login functionality work, and then again I'll come back and finish onto this one. Don't want to bog you down with the details of it. All right, so come back onto the login part, or FCE, React Functional Export. This is going to be my login page. There we go. All right, so how does the login page works? First of all, we need to grab the login. So const extract login, no suggestion. This will be coming up from use auth store, just like that. And we'll be needing same errors and same loading, so we can actually borrow them up. Instead of writing them again, let's go ahead and say all of this. Copy this and paste it up. So there we go. Now we have messages for this. Same goes up here as well. You will be needing a method to handle the thing. So let's do a revision. I think you'll never forget after this one. So this one is going to be const. Let's call this one as handle submit or handle login submit, whatever you wish. It needs to be async because we'll be talking to the database. It accepts an event and we can just go like that. Nothing wrong in that, just like I said a few minutes ago, but the event, the more you specifically mention what type of event is coming up, that's better. And we know that the event that's coming up is react.form event this time. Further, we can, it's happy right now, but we can further mention it in the form event, what type of elements are coming in. So the elements that are coming up are HTML form element. There we go. We can mention that. Once you do it, you never forget it, and you are doing it twice. So that's fine. Okay, what's the first step? If you remember, anybody can tell me in the comments. What's the first step when you handle the form? The first step is always prevent default. There we go, event.prevent default. Now collect the data, same stuff, collect data, then validation, and then use or simply login, and we're going to use that from store. And then handle the responses, we can do that. So let's start one by one. How do we collect the data? we simply go ahead and say form data, and form data is going to come up from new form data, and inside this we'll say e.current target. Now let's extract one by one each information. In the login form we have just the email and password. So we'll say form data, you give me a .get, there we go. And we'll be grabbing the email. Similar to this, we'll be grabbing password. And there we go, password, there we go. So now the data is with us. Now the next step is to validate this data. So let's come back here and we'll say if there is no email or if there is no password, that's it. I don't want to proceed further. So before that, I'll set the error and I'll go like this. And now you're seeing the speed run. Yeah, that's what happens once you go with quite a lot of inside the application. Please fill all fields. And this time I'll not forget that I have to return so that errors doesn't come away. All right, so this is all good. Now let's see how we can log in. Login should be fairly straightforward in this case. We're going to go ahead and say await, and we'll use the login that we brought in. Now inside the login, go ahead and pass on email.toString, and we'll be passing on the password and password.toString. There we go. Two things are being passed on. And why is it having an issue? There we go. String is not assignable to parameter. Didn't we mention that this, oops, there we go, should be happy now. This one should also be happy now. Once we are up here, then we are going to go ahead and handle this response first. So const login response, there we go. Now let's conditionally check if we got any errors. So we'll say login response. If it has error, then I would like to forcefully extract out the error. And there we go. We simply go ahead and say login response, please give me the error. And since error is there, I will forcefully extract a message out of you. There we go. And did we set up any time when we are doing this? No, we didn't set up that there should be a set error state. We didn't clean them up. I think we should write them. Handle loading and errors. So now we can do that up here. Set is loading, and that loading is going to turn into true. And similarly this, we'll go ahead and say set error, and that error also needs to go away empty. There we go. We'll need to have one more instance of loading, so we'll just go and move it back just after everything is all done. So this is the right place, and we'll turn it into false. There we go. Nice and easy, nothing much to worry about. All right, that is it. And same goes up here. I'll be adding my forms and links and all of that. I have already brought in the labels and the input. I'll just throw them up. You can just copy paste them from the GitHub. But this is the functionality part. And a login I have taught so many times about the MongoDB login, the AppWrite login. So I think this shouldn't be a big deal. So there we go. Now you understand the logic part of it. And by the time we meet in the next video, I'll just copy paste the login and the beautiful form that we have designed for this one. So there we go. Login and registration part is all done and is all sorted out with the store Zustand, and we are checking for the sessions and everything. So this flow is absolutely awesome and works nicely. And one thing I think we forgot to do is, yeah, that's important one. So one thing that we forgot to do is very important. So all of these things, sessions and everything are coming up from, and this needs to be, whenever you're using any React or hooks of the React, you need to make all these components as client-side components. So you have to say use client. Otherwise, things are not going to work. Thank goodness I remembered this. Otherwise, you would be struggling in the error. And then you will say, I didn't mention it. I'm mentioning it right now. There we go. And we can simply say use client. Wherever you use React hooks, we need to make them client components. So client component login also needs to be client component. And we'll say use client. There we go. Converted them all into the client component. Should be all good. There we go. Rest of the stuff is just ShadC and bringing in and throwing them up. That's it. So that's it for this video. Hope you have enjoyed this. Don't forget to put the comment, and yes, we have handled the authentication whole part through the AppWrite. So that's it, your AppWrite authentication crash course with Just and NextJS, of course. Let's catch up in the next video. Hey there everyone, Hitesh here and welcome to another video. So we have been doing AppWrite stuff and it's been a couple of weeks actually that I recorded the video, but you are watching all of this in one go, so that's really nice. And if you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and if you're already up here, go ahead, post a comment and let me know how you're enjoying the series and which part of the country, which city you're watching this. Now moving forward, let's go ahead and handle the final complex part of this application. After that, it's all super easy. The reason why I'm calling this complex, it's not because it's code-wise complex, it's just a long code, it's not a complex code. When we use backend as a service, something like AppWrite that we have been using in this application, the whole idea is to give everything to the backend service and just handle everything from there. So we just worry about sending the data, creating new documents, getting these documents, filter them, query them, paginate them. That's the whole idea. But in case of this particular case that we have, this Stack Overflow clone, everything has sometimes touched multiple of the parts of the collection of documentation. For example, if anybody posts a question, we might want to increase the user reputation. And sometimes when an answer is being posted, we want to just see how much upvote is there, how much downvote is there. And if somebody does an upvote, we want to increase the reputation. So we are touching a couple of collections. And when we are touching a couple of collections, the best way is to handle these things from our own server so that we can send multiple of the requests as promises. And AppWrite can just do all its magic for that. So let me walk you through what we are about to build and how it looks like so that you can understand why this is the only remaining complex part in this application. So if you look at this, this is a sample application. You already know, we have already built the application. Now I'm just walking you through how it goes. So the first thing is, as soon as somebody adds an answer into this one, we want to increase the user reputation. And if you check up here and I go into the auth section, in the users, any users, you just walk into this, you'll notice I can just go ahead and move on to the back of it. And here you're going to see preferences. So this preferences is a key value pair. You can add as many preferences as you like, maybe dark mode, light mode, user reputation, whatever. What we are playing with is the reputation. So reputation is just a score, internal score of a user. And as soon as he posts a comment, we might want to increase the reputation. As soon as some answer is being deleted, we might want to decrease the reputation. So a couple of tasks needs to be done. Now, similar to this, what we have is also this guy. This small button is a really complex stuff to work on with. Because if you click it once, that means you are increasing the reputation and you're increasing the upvote as well. And as soon as you click it again, that means you want to downvote this, like you want to remove your vote. So that's a little bit complex and I'll walk you through how to do with that. That's the only remaining complex part in this entire application, and that's what we'll be handling in this particular video. So let me go ahead. And the way how we'll be handling them is through our own custom APIs. Rest of the things we can manage directly by making a promise or promise request to the Node AppWrite, but this is going to be an interesting one. Now, in case of the NextJS, whenever you want to handle anything which requires backend compilation or creating your own APIs, you can just go into the app. If you're into the source folder, that's great. If you're not, that's also the same part. Go into the app and create a new folder, call it as API. It's important that we call it as API. No other thing works. It's a framework, so we have to go through with that. And inside the API, you have to create folders, which will be your route. So let's create a new folder, and my route will be called as answer. Anybody can hit this route. Now the file which you have to create is going to be route. Yes, this name needs to be exactly same as route. .ts.js depends on who you are and how you're working with. So this is the basic part of it. Now once you're here, now you can write all of your backend logic. This logic never gets exposed to any of the user. It's like your own backend. It's your own server. Now let's go ahead and export a couple of things here. So the way how it works is export, async, and the function. You have to name these function post only because the routing and the URL part is already taken care of that. So /API/answer is the route which we will be hitting. And after that, post, get, whatever the request you want to go ahead and grab. So this is going to be my request. I'll go ahead and say this is going to be a request. And let's go ahead. This is going to be a next request. So there we go. Auto import works nicely. And inside this, we're going to go ahead and work with try catch. So we'll be talking through the AppWrite, and this is going to be our basic and classic try catch. And I think catching up the error is the easiest part. So let's go ahead and work with that. We'll keep the error. We would love to typecast this. Any is not usually a great idea, but in this case, it's okay. It's fine. Let's go ahead and simply say that we want to return a next response. So there we go. Import that. And we'll be sending just the JSON. In this case, I don't have to worry too much because a lot of stuff is being taken care by the NextJS on its own. So in this, we'll be saying that if we have the error, let's go ahead and send the error message back. So we'll be saying error. If it is there, optionally, let's decode that and we'll be sending the message just like that. If it is not there, obviously, we'll be sending a message. So we'll be saying error creating answer. The whole idea of this post request is user will be sending me an answer and I'll be just creating a new document. Of course, I'll be attaching all these requirements with it, like where the answer needs to go, what the question type is. We'll be attaching that, but the whole idea is to create an answer. That's it. So once we are done with this, let's go ahead and also send the status code as well. So that will go up here and we'll say status. Status can go like this. If we have the error, optionally, we can go ahead and have the status. If it is not there, then we can go ahead and extract error.code. If it is also not there, then go ahead and give a 500. So it's up to you how much complexity you want to handle. Now, the next step is how we can create a post, or we can create a fresh document and post it as an answer. In case this is still confusing you, just go into this database. And this is our database. And we want to create this answers, not the comment. Comments are different. In case you look at this, these are the comments at the top. These are the answers. Now we'll be creating just the answers like that. So this is what we have to create. So at the time of creating the answers, all you got to do is worry about these attributes. So content, question ID, and author ID. So this is all that I have. Question ID, and then we have answer. We're creating answers. Yep. So the content into it will be answered it in itself. And then author ID. That's it. That's all what we got. So let's go ahead and work with that. And we have already placed our middleware so that only a logged in user can do that. It's going on everywhere. So let's go ahead and work with that. The way how you do it is, first of all, you await, and then you go ahead and say request.json. This gets you access to everything that's there to get access in the Next.js request. So that's it. You get the access to all the body that is there to get access. There we go. And now we can just go ahead and destructure whatever is coming to you. For example, we'll be having question ID, we'll be having the answer in itself, and we'll be having author ID. So whoever is crafting it on the front end will be giving me the access of all of this. All right. Now you can perform more validation, whether the user is perfectly correct or not, author is correct or not, how much answer you want to store, all the malicious keyword. You can go ahead and extract all of this. What I want to do now next is I want to save or create a fresh document because it's an obviously it's a new document. This is the answer. So I want to create a fresh answer document. Super easy to go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and say await. We need a database and that needs to come from server. There we go. And we'll be saying create document. This is the one that we want to go with that. We'll also store that. So we'll say const response and we'll be storing that as a reference. Once we are here, it's a simple method. It requires a couple of parameters that needs to be given to it. First of all, we'll be giving it a DB, and a DB will be coming from model/name. Yep, that's where it needs to be. And what else? We need answers collection. Answer collection. There we go. Coming again from the name. And we need a unique ID. So we'll be getting an ID, and that comes from Node-SDK. I think, yeah, we can bring it from the Node-SDK. All right. So this is it. And now let's go ahead and create a unique one because we are creating a fresh document. So let's go ahead and fire up a unique one. There we go. So this is the first part of it. That what are the all details we require to create this document? And why are you bothering? Because data was not provided. Okay, got it. We haven't yet provided the data. I was about to talk about it, but it is giving me errors before that. Let's go ahead and provide the data. All right, so the error part is gone. And all the data that we need to provide, So we have content in our database. If you forgot this, yep, this is the content that we have. So content is our answer. So let's go ahead and say this is our answer. Rest of them are pretty easy. So we have author ID. Author ID is author ID. You can just leave that as a one author ID as well, ES5. And we have question ID as well. So question ID is question ID. I'll just write it to make it more elaborative. That's it. One part is done. Now the documentation is created. Now we could have done this directly from anywhere. That's not the point. The point of having our own API is because based on the answer, we want to increase the author's reputation because your question is getting answered. So author's reputation needs to be increased as well. Whoever is logged in, you have given an answer. Your reputation needs to be increased. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll say increase author reputation. All right, so how we can do that? For doing that, it's actually super easy. You can work with that. And all we got to do is, first of all, take access of the users. Then we need to get access of users prefs as well, which we are storing in our store. In case you forgot, let me go ahead and walk you through with the store. So if you look at this and I open up this, notice we have verify session, logins. Here we have user prefs as well. Create an account, log out. Here we go. So this auth, this gives us everything that we need. Fairly an easy process to work on with this. So we'll just grab it. So let me walk you through with that. It's actually easier to show you than to work on with. First of all, let me grab users pref. It should be somewhere here. So here it is. So user prefs, this is what I want. And I think that will help us. So let me go ahead and look for it. Yep, this is the users. User prefs, I get it. Do we have more of it? Yep, we have it. Anyways, let's go back and see how that can work. First of all, we want to import some stuff and that will be coming up from. All right, so we have to go @/store and then we have this auth. What do we want to bring from here? We will be bringing up user prefs. All right, so this is the user pref that we have got. All right, so user pref, we have got the interface of it, and that's having a simple reputation just as number. All right, this is the most important part. Now we can grab it. Now, how to increase the reputation? Now it is, you won't believe it, but it's actually super easy. Now, first of all, we need users and users. That's going to come from users config. Now, on top of that, you can just work. Let me just walk through. Yep, the users is coming up from nicely up here. Now, users, you have got the collection of or the access of this. As soon as you put up a dot, it will suggest you all that you want to grab. Notice here we have this get prefs. It will give you all the preferences that you want to work with that. So I'll just get this prefs, and inside this you can grab you can provide the author ID and then it will give you. Let me walk you through. So notice here you just provide a user ID and it will give you the preferences of that user. But since I know that my preferences needs to be strictly to the number, I'll just typecast this as a user prefs. Again, it's a TypeScript thing. In case you don't want to do this, that's totally okay. The most important part is we'll provide the author ID and then we can just grab it just like this. So we can grab here and now we will have the reputation. There we go. Our reputation is there. Now we want to update this reputation. Whatever the data you want to update into this, you just pass on it here. My data is prefs and dot and then prefs dot reputation. But this is not going to cut through like this. So we have to just wrap it like this and we have to cast it as number. And once we are done with this, then we have to say +1 and there we go. This should be all happy, but we have to go ahead and say await and await user pref. Let me just quickly check. Why are you? Oh, we haven't grabbed it first. So we have to grab the prefs. Otherwise, how this will come? Let me rewrite this again. I have made a mess. So let me try that again. First of all, I need to await. The users will be there. And from that, I'll get the preference. Sometimes it's difficult to talk and code at the same time. This will give me the preference. And for this, I have to provide the author ID. Let me do it one line at a time. And I know that this is going to be of type user prefs. Okay. Let's not do all at the one chaining. Let's go ahead and store that I have my prefs. prefs just like this. Okay, sorted. Now I have the prefs. I have this prefs. So let me just walk through. This is for me. This is how I write the code. I'll click on this. Now I have access to this prefs. Okay, this preference. And now I have to modify this one document, which is reputation. I have to update the value of it. All right. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and say await. You have users. And again, in the users, we are going to go ahead and say update pref. I want to update the preference, and which one? I want to update the author ID. And in that author ID, there are many preferences. One that I have grabbed already. I need to just update that. And the key value for that is reputation. I should have coded that into my constants, but that's okay. I can update it whenever I want later on. Refactoring. Now I'll get this pref as the document, and in this I'll have the reputation. And once I'm done with this, I'll just increase this. Okay, looks good, looks much better. Once we are done with this, now I would love to return a response that, hey, everything is done. So I'm going to go ahead and say return next response. I'll go ahead and send a JSON response, and in that we'll send a response that we have grabbed already. So this is the response in case we want to send it, and we will send some of the more data with that. For example, a status. Let's go ahead and send up a status code of 201. There we go. So told you, it's actually not that difficult, but yeah, it's a lengthy process. You have to go through with the algorithm and whatnot. Now users are able to create the answers, but there is also going to be a chance where user might want to delete their existing answer. Obviously the logged in users will be able to perform that operation, but how to write these ones? So in case this is your first time with the Next.js, you go ahead and work with this, and whatever all the verbs that you want to work with the API, you just go ahead and work like that. So we have worked with the one verb, which is post. Similar to that, we'll just go ahead and say export async function, and we're going to go ahead and say delete request. That is going to be a type of next request. There we go. We got the access of it. Now we can just go ahead and try catch this. The catch part is exactly same. Probably we can just go ahead and copy paste this. We'll just go ahead and grab this. Not till here. Till here. Copy this. Come up here and paste this. Let's go ahead and read this once. So we have the next response. We have got the error, and we have got the error message. Should be up here. Why is it bothering? All right. So return next response dot JSON. We are passing first. Let's go ahead and remove this. All right. Let's write the fresh. We'll just send the message just like this, and we'll say we have the access to error. Optionally, let's decode the message. And if the message is not there, we're going to go ahead and say error deleting the answer, or the answer, just the answer, however. All right, there we go, finally. And the status should be, why is it not taking this? Like, it should be taking it. Anyways, let me just rewrite it. It wants me to rewrite that. We'll say error, and the error will give us the status. Just like that. If the status is not there, status, am I writing it correct? Hopefully, yes. And if this is not there, we're going to go ahead and say error. Optionally, we're going to decode the code of it. And if nothing works, we're going to give it 500. There is something that I'm missing here. I'm not able to see it. Property status does not exist on type. Empty. Oh my god. What is this? Oh, I got it. Why is it there? Because I haven't casted this. So I think this should work. Yeah, it should be working now. All right, so this part is done. Now let's see how we can delete that. Deleting is fairly easy, but we have to go through with the exact same process. The reputation needs to go down. Let's go ahead and grab, somebody needs to give me the access of it. So we're going to go ahead and say request.json. That's it. Let's await that because that's how we grab the data. And I need to grab the answer ID for that. Answer ID. There we go. And there we go. Now I have access to answer ID. How we're going to work with this. All right. First of all, let's get a document based on this answer ID. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and say await. and we have access to databases, and we would love to get a document. Okay, which document? From where you want to grab? I will provide the DB, standard process, and from the answers collection, and give me a data which matches the query string, which is answer ID. Once you actually grab that, let's call this as answer. So const answer, just like that. Once we have this answer, now we want to delete this document. So for deleting this, I'll say await, and we'll say databases will delete a document. Delete document. Which document you want to delete? Pass on the DB from the answers collection. We want to delete this answer ID. And totally up to you whether you want to check whether the answer exists or not. You can do more of this work. I'll leave that as an exercise for you so that you can harden it more. Response, there we go. Okay, once we're done with this, our job is not yet finished because the answer is gone. So we need to decrease the reputation. And again, we don't need to go through with the logic again. It's exactly same. So let's go ahead and grab it. Even response we can grab. And once we are here, let's go ahead and paste it up here. All right, so the pref part is good. We get the preference and we provide the author ID, but we cannot go ahead and provide the author ID like this. We don't have it. But the good thing is, if I go back up here into the databases, this one and the answers, in the attributes, you notice here we are having the author ID in each of this answer. So we can grab it from there. So we can just go ahead and say we have the answer ID, and from that we can grab the author ID. All right, so preference is now with us. And this author ID again needs to be exactly like this. So we'll just go ahead and say answer ID dot author ID. So you grab the preferences first, then you simply await to perform an operation, which is update the preferences. Reputation this time needs to be decreased. So we'll just go ahead and say -1. That is it. And after that, we simply go ahead and say JSON response status is 200 fine. 200 is also fine. We go ahead and we can optionally provide the data as well in case you wish to. Let me go ahead and grab it on the next line, just like this. This one needs to go like this, so that I can actually see what's happening. We can go ahead and provide another thing, which is data. So just like this, we can just go ahead and say data response, put up a comma, just like this. All right, so why are you bothered? And it says expected, got 3. We are not sending 3 arguments. All right. There we go. This is all right. So this needs to be removed. We are not sending the response like this. This should be okay. So we are sending the data, we are sending the status, and I think that is it. So this is all. This is all. Now we have handled all the answers as well as learned how we can handle. Are we not using this answer? Oh, my bad, my bad. This should be answer, and we need to use this answer. Let me quickly check what's missing. Oh, this is a common classic mistake. So we're not using this answer. This answer ID is the ID of this whole collection. What we need to grab is the answer. We're calling this as answer. So from the answer, we need to get the author ID. So my bad. This shouldn't be answer ID. This should be answer. This should also be answer. So now it should be okay. Thank goodness the color collections are there. And the reason why I don't remove these things, because you need to understand that, hey, when to get panicked. Oh, I'm storing this, but I'm not using it. So what's the point of it? And then you get these, ask these questions to yourself, you become a better coder. And I think that's why I keep them. These errors needs to be there so that we can have it. And rest of this looks okay, but again, we need to test them. Once the application is ready, we'll be obviously be testing. So I guess that is it. That is all what we'll be doing in this video. So a nice 20-minute video we have gone through with this answer. Now the next video we'll be going through with the voting process, which is a complex. I thought we'll be doing all in the one, but it's better to keep them separated. So this is it. We have gone through with the answer and handling our own logic with the multiple resources being accessed in the AppWrite. In the next video, we'll be doing a little bit of the more complex one, which is the voting one. Let's go ahead and catch up in the next video. Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh and welcome to the entire project that we are building with the AppWrite, the Stack Overflow clone. This is the most complex part of this entire application. I know I said it in the last video as well, but we didn't cover that entirely in the last video. In this video, we'll be handling the upvoting system and how to manage the user preferences in which we are managing users' reputation. So this is a bit lengthy part. A lot of algorithm needs to be designed for this. We'll walk you through with that. And that is it. That is it. After this application is just a walk in the park. Nothing more is there. In case you're new onto the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe. In case you're already here, let me know from which city you're watching this and are you excited to watch the next video. Let me know in the comment section. Each comment is important for me. So let me share the screen and let me walk you through the entire application and how we're going to work with that. So in case you notice on this application, we have this upvoting quite a lot of places here. In fact, just one place. So this is a complex button on itself. Now imagine right now, just imagine I'm logged in. I just click on it. So first time I just do an upvote. That means my reputation needs to be increased. That's great. Once I click again on it, that means, hey, this was already clicked. So this time when I click on it, I'm meant to unclick it. So if I have added, let's just say in this case, it was -1, so it will become 0. Once I click on it first time, it will become 0. All right. Once I click on it again, that means I'm taking my vote back. That means the user, my reputation, I haven't contributed anything into it. I am just decreasing it. So the reputation goes to 1 back because whatever the contribution I have given, I'll take it back. Same goes for the downvote as well. It doesn't really matter what you do, upvote or downvote. Whatever you're contributing, we are giving you 1 point up for that. So if you're taking your contribution back, we'll just take your reputation back. So this needs to be handled very delicately. I have designed a simple diagram to make it a little bit more understandable. So this is how we'll be handling this. So as soon as user sends a vote request, we'll first of all extract vote by ID, vote status, all the data type that we have. So in case you forgot this, this is a votes collection. In this, we are storing vote status, whether this is upvote or downvote, whatever that is, doesn't really matter. It's just a status. Then we have vote by ID and voted by ID. Then we have type ID and the type here as well. So these are basic fields that we have to manage. Now, once we extract this, return the extracted data. So we'll be extracting the data and we'll be grabbing some documents for it. We'll be querying first of all whether the vote was existed or not. Now depends on whether the vote was there, existed or not. Depends on this, we'll be creating some of the stuff. So don't worry about this. I think instead of this, let me just walk you through with the code part. Actually, that is much easier compared to anything else. So again, we have to create a simple route. So let's go ahead and work with that. I'll just create a new API route. Let's create a folder. And this one is going to call simply as vote. The process remains exactly same. We'll create a new file for this one. We're going to go ahead and say route.ts. And in this, we're going to same export async. Then we simply create a function, what the verb we want to handle, in this case, the post verb we want to handle. Then we have the request, which comes up as the next request. Once we are done here, let's go ahead and work. Now let's design a simple classic algorithm. We'll go with the try catch. The catch part, again, it's easier, nothing much to worry, just exactly what we did in the last part. It's exactly same. We can even borrow this code and can just copy paste this. Nothing much to be worried. We have to cast this as any. So, and we're going to say response. There we go. So next response is here. Error deleting answer. So all of this. So instead of saying error deleting the answer, we can just provide a better one. Error in voting. All right. So this part is nothing much to be worried about. Let's go ahead and worry about the part where we want to worry about. All right. So let's write the steps for it. First one is grab the data. Okay. That's my step 1. What is the next step? I want to simply list document. Which document? Precisely the document where I will mention the query that the type should be exactly that, the ID should be that, voted ID should be that, because there will be number of collection. So I want to list the document which fills my condition. We will be using the grab data into this list document. All right. The next part is, so this part is all. Let's do them one by one. That's much easier. So first of all, let's go ahead and grab some data, and we'll be grabbing this data from await, and we'll be saying request.json. All right, so whoever is doing the upvote will give me all of this data. What data? We'll be having a voted by ID. That's the first one. We'll be having a vote status, and we'll be having the type, and we'll be having type ID. So there we go, all the data that I need. If I check this again, vote status, we have this. Voted by ID, we have type ID as well as the type. So voted by ID, vote status, type, and type ID. So you gave me this data. Now, based on this data, I want to query for a document. So how can I do that? Super easy. You can just go ahead and say await, then have the databases from the server config, and then you can just look for a list documents. There could be multiple of them, but we'll just go ahead and use it like this. We'll say this will be my response that you are throwing me back. The list document allows you to provide a couple of data that you have to send it. So with this, we'll say that, hey, first of all, I'll send you the DB, which will come up like this. And we'll be having the vote collection. So we'll be having vote collection. Now from the vote collection, which document you want to grab? Now this is where you can provide the strings, an array of the strings, which will be the queries. So notice here it says query collection ID we have given. Now we can send the queries. And this could be an entire array, which we can provide multiple of these ones. So I'll just go like this and start an array. Now I don't want all the collection. I want the collection specifically which serves my purpose. So we'll just go ahead and say query Node-SDK will give me that. We want to have an equal query. We can perform multiple of these queries, but I want the first one. In this, I'll say that, hey, what is my attribute that I'm looking up for? In the database, I have stored the type. What is the value that I'm looking up for? The type that user has given me in the request. Once I put up a comma, I can just provide multiple of these filters so that I get precisely my document that I look for. So this one, I'm looking for the type ID, and this one is going to be type ID. I can provide as many as I wish. So this one is going to be voted by ID, and there we go. We'll be saying voted by ID. If you have more queries, you can just go ahead and provide that. This is the classic way of providing the query. So now you have the response. So assuming we come to line number 18, we have this response. Now, couple of queries that we need to do here. The first one is if the response that I grab, because it will give me documents, list documents, multiple documents could be there. And I'll say if the documents, response.documents, the length of this documents, which will be an array, is greater than 0. Now think for a second, what do you mean by greater than 0? That means the document exists and I want to work with that. So we'll be worrying about that part in a minute. There is another case just like this in which we want to change the status of the code. For example, user might be here. He has already upvoted. Now he wants to downvote. He have clicked on the downvote instead of clicking on it again. So in that case, we have to remove the upvote. We have to add an attribute, which is the downvote. So we have to handle that part. But in any case, the already existing status, which was upvote, it doesn't match that. So it is a downvote status. So we have to worry on that. So how we can do that? Pretty simple. We'll just go ahead and grab again the same response, and we'll ask that, hey, this means the document exists. So the documents, and we're going to see the very first document that we are grabbing. And inside this, what we're going to see is the vote status. So we're going to go ahead and say vote status. It doesn't match the existing status. It doesn't match the vote status. So whatever the user has sent me as the vote status, it is not there in the document. So vote status would be upvote or downvote. So whatever the user has sent me that he has sent, it is not in the document. So if it doesn't match, that means I'll just write it. That will clear it one. So this means previous vote does not exist, or vote status, come on, my keyboard is shifted, changed. So these are the two things we are handling here. Either it doesn't exist, so that is also there, or if it exists, the same status is not there. It's downvote or upvote. So we'll work on this part. So we'll just grab and work on this. We'll just comment this. We'll come back onto this one by one. Now, no matter what happened here, so you have changed the status, you have worked on the user preferences and all these things. One thing you need to do now is you have to send back the count of the upvotes and the downvotes so that somebody can just see how many total votes are there and all of that. So for this, a complex query needs to be done, and this is the point where the first time we're going to see the type of complex queries that Appwrite can handle. So we're going to go ahead and we will grab all the upvotes as well as the downvotes. So let's go ahead and say that we want to grab upvotes and we'll be grabbing the downvotes. So no matter what happened, after that, upvotes and downvotes comes to me. So I'll just go ahead and say await, and we're going to go ahead and say promise dot all. Now this is where we're going to be firing up our promises. All right. So first promise, how we're going to work with that. So the first promise that we're going to work with this is going to go like this. We'll be saying databases, you go ahead and list all the documents. So list documents, but this time we'll be actually querying this documents a little bit more. All right, so this one. So how we're going to calculate the upvotes. First of all, let me give you the DB. I'll give you the vote collection as well. There we go. And after this, I'll be sending up my queries, what all the queries I need. So query dot equal, it will be copy paste. Next one will be copy paste. So first of all, the attribute that I'm looking up for type needs to be exactly like type. I comma this, and I go ahead and say this one is going to be type ID, and this one is going to be type ID. Then we have a vote status. So we'll be saying vote status. This one needs to be hard coded as upvoted. So we have two of these enums that we are calculating. This is upvote. This is the only thing which is getting me this. So upvoted. All right. So this query is there, but we don't want all of them. We'll be saying we also can give one more. We can just go like this. And this one can get removed, and we can say voted by ID, voted by ID. There we go. And for the optimization, we only need the total of it. So we'll be just grabbing the count of it. Again, there are many ways of handling this. I'll be just saying that instead of doing all of this, we'll be just saying query dot limit, and let's limit this to only one. So we are getting only either the upvote or the downvote for this one. The same thing can be done for the downvotes as well. So we'll just go ahead and put up a comma onto this one, and there we go. After this, we can put up this. So I'll just go ahead, grab this. This one will give me the downvotes. Instead of upvoted, we're going to go ahead and say downvoted. Downvoted. All right, looks good. Upvote status, downvoted, and all of this. So let me just quickly check. We have the vote collection, queries type, type ID, voted by ID, vote status is downvoted. We're querying this. So finally, we have gotten, we are getting whether this upvotes and downvotes for this one. Entire collection is there. Pretty good, pretty good. Nice and easy. Now, since we are here, we can just go ahead and quickly get the upvotes and the downvotes the response that we need to send, otherwise where we are using it. So let's get a response so that user can actually display that what the data needs to be displayed here. We have just grabbed only two of them. The data is there. All right. Once we are here, let's go up here and say return next response, and we'll be saying the JSON just like this, and we'll go like this. First of all, we'll be sending the data, and then we'll be sending the status. So let's first send the status. Hopefully that's 200. This is the interesting part. So now I want to send the number. So we'll be sending the data just like this. What data we want to send? First of all, there is document null. I'm not sending you anything like that. I'm sending you the vote result. Vote result. How am I going to grab the vote result? So for this one, I need to grab that. How can we send this vote result? I have all the upvotes. All right. I can just go ahead and use a dot total on this. Again, thanks to Appwrite for providing this. So we have the total upvotes. We can just go ahead and say, similarly, just give me the downvotes and dot total. So there we go. Final data is being calculated, and we can send more data if you wish. We can provide some message or something. So I think this is all good enough. So let me just quickly check this. All right, looks good to me. Checked it out. Have stared it for a long, but yeah, I think it's all good. In case optionally, what we can do is we can send a message as well in case you want to send it. Again, not needed. I'll just go ahead and say vote handled, something like this. All right, so this was quite a new thing to you, that how to grab all the documents. So we have grabbed the documents based on the queries, all the upvoted are being grabbed, all the downvotes are being grabbed, and then we finally did the calculation. Hope now it makes sense. I know when we are doing like this, it doesn't make sense, but when we actually go ahead and do this, then it makes sense, okay, why we are doing it. All right, now again, a little bit of a complex part is this part. Now how we're going to handle this. Now it's not really complex, but a lot of work needs to be done. So if the response.documents length is greater than 0 and somebody has sent me, so first of all, we want to delete some of the documents existing, because if you notice, if it already exists, that means somebody is clicking again on it. So this is the part where we work something like this. So existing vote is found. So we need to delete the existing vote and then come back. So vote is already existing there. So how we can just delete this? So this is the part where this was already clicked. Somebody clicked again on it. So we have to delete that vote. That is what we need to handle now. All right. So first of all, let's delete this. Let's handle it one by one. It's not that complex if we start doing it. First of all, let's delete this. So we're going to go ahead and say await. We're going to use databases dot delete document. But for the deletion, we need to provide all the data. So DB is there. Delete documents. Oh, why are you bothering? Databases dot delete document. Yep. And we'll be saying I'll give you DB. That's coming up nicely. We'll give you vote collection as well, vote collection, and we'll be sending you the response document ID as well. So we're gonna go ahead and send the ID, how we can grab the ID. That's interesting. Let's check. So we're getting this response with all the list documents. We can actually use this response because we know the response documents exist. So we can grab the ID from it. So should be fairly easy. I can say something like this. So grab me the response. Inside that, I know the documents exist. I want the first one of it to be deleted, obviously. And after this, I can use a $ID. There we go. So now this will be deleted. We don't need to work anything more into this one. Now, once this is all done, let's understand and analyze this part. So once somebody was already clicked on it, it clicked again on it. So that document got removed. But since you have taken back your contribution, now we need to delete your reputation as well, or decrease your reputation would be better word. So let's go ahead and say decrease the reputation of the question/answer of the author. So how we can do that? First of all, let's go ahead and say this one will be question or answer, just naming them randomly. We're going to go ahead and say await databases, and this database will grab a document. So we'll get document. Yes, we can do that directly from the preference as well. But we need to grab a couple of more stuff from it. So first, let's get the document. I'll walk you through what we are grabbing. So we come like this and we provide same stuff. DB is being provided. What we are getting is type. So this one will be question, because answers can also have their own reputation and stuff. So we'll see that if the type is question, then we'll be grabbing from the questions collection. And otherwise we'll be grabbing from answers collection, and then we'll be providing the type ID. I hope this part is fairly clear to you, that what we are grabbing and how we are grabbing it. All right, to explain it more, because I get it, this could be a little bit confusing, that why we are having question answer like this. I have actually created a sample answer as well. So what so far we have been discussing is you can go ahead and upvote the answers, but in case you have used Stack Overflow, we can see that the answers are there. So in the answer, you can just upvote or downvote answer. So I don't know where am I clicking or where the user is clicking. So it's a upvote from the answers collection, or it's an upvote from the questions collection. So that's what we are tackling in this part of the code. I hope now it makes sense. So wherever we want to grab the document, we are first asking that, hey, grab the DB, but the type is going to be questions collection or answers collection. I don't know that. If the question is there, type is a question, then we are going to grab the questions collection. Otherwise, we are grabbing the answers collection. So this is the whole idea of having this. And by the way, you can see all of this is voted ID and all of that. So we need to know that how this needs to be there. The type can be the question, or type can be inside this answer collection or the question collection. So that is why we are doing this. So when somebody will send me the data, it will send me this type as well. So this type exactly is question or the answer. So I'll say if the type is known as question, we'll grab the data from the questions collection. Otherwise, we'll grab it from the answers collection. I hope now this visualization makes much more sense, that we are upvoting the answers or if we are upvoting the question. So that will grab us exactly the data that we want. All right, so this is what we have. Now that we have question or answer collection, so each collection, whatever the collection we are having, so notice here inside, if I go into the database and I go the questions or the answers, wherever I go, I always am storing the users into it. So if I go ahead and check the attribute, we're always storing the author ID. Based on this author ID, I can always grab the author or the user who is logged in. So based on that, I can grab the preference and I can change all things here. So once we are done with this, let's go ahead and grab the preference. So we're going to go ahead and say await. We'll be having users being server config. That's it. And from this, we can just go ahead and say get prefs. And from the get prefs, we'll be saying something like this, whether that's a question or answer, whatever that is, we are storing the author ID into it. Author ID. And what additionally we can do is something like this. We can come here and we can say user prefs. There we go. So now it's an easy. Now I have author preferences. So we can go ahead and call the same author prefs. Just like this. And we have this. Now all we got to do after this is change the user's reputation, whether to increase it or decrease it. So let me walk you through that part as well. Again, it's up to you how you want to handle that. So simple await will be having users. This will be performing an operation of update the prefs. There we go. All right. So update prefs, we'll typecast that as user prefs. There we go. Now inside this, how we're going to, this is a method, by the way. It used to look like this. There we go. And we provide something like this, questions or answer, something like this. And we, by the way, injected like this, user prefs. Hope this makes sense now. Now, after this, we can just go ahead and say, you give me the author ID. So author ID. Once I have this author ID, that means I know exactly whose preference I'm updating. But how should I update this? This is the important question. All right. So if the reputation, we are updating just one field, which is reputation, how the reputation will get updated. So if it is already upvoted, so you're taking an upvote back. So in that case, we'll just decrease the reputation. So that makes sense. We'll go ahead and say response dot documents. We'll grab the first field out of it and we'll say if the vote status is equals to upvoted, then we're going to go ahead. If it is upvoted, we're going to do something. Otherwise, we're going to do something. So what's the first something? If it is upvoted, then in that case, I'll just go ahead and say number auth prefs. And we're going to go ahead and say reputation, whatever already existing reputation we are going to go ahead and decrease one from it, just like this. And same goes up here. So copy this and paste it up here. This time it's going to be +1. And again, in case you want to change this or this one doesn't make sense, you just have to look into it. Always remember what's happening. In this case, the length is greater than 0, so the reputation was already there for each of these questions. And we want to increase the reputation if it is upvoted. So if you're taking back the upvote, I'll decrease the reputation. If you are doing the opposite, I want to do opposite. So there we go. Told you, it's a little bit complex in the algorithmic part, nothing much there. All right, so this is all good. Now, in the case of this one, means the previous vote doesn't exist or we want to change that. In that case, we want to create a fresh document. This is the second part of it. So if I go ahead and check onto this one, this is vote already exists. In case the vote doesn't exist, then we go ahead and create a new document and we handle all these parts just like that. So maybe the upvote document doesn't exist, downvote document doesn't exist. So this is where we are handling the new document creation part. All right. So let me just write that quickly, because talking and writing at the same time, it's a little challenging. So now that you know all of this, let me go ahead and write that quickly. We'll just go ahead and say this one is going to be doc. New document is being created. We're going to go ahead and await this. Databases is going to create a document just like this. I'll provide you all the details, which is DB. I'll provide you vote collection, and I'll create a unique ID. Yep, Node-SDK can give me that. We'll go ahead and grab a unique one. Now it's time to provide the data. There we go. The data is going to be type. We will be creating the type ID. There we go. What else we have? Vote status. So vote status is there. And finally, voted by ID. Voted by ID. We have all the data. We just passed it on. And there we go. It creates the document. Now the next part is handle the reputation. Increase. Come on. Increase or decrease the reputation. All right, so we are going to increase and decrease the reputation. I think that's exactly the same. Can we borrow some code? I think yes, we can. We can at least grab this part, copy this, paste this, and we will be grabbing. We also need to grab one more, this part also. So now we can just grab it. The rest of the logic is exactly same, so we can just grab it. All right, so we grab the question document, the DB, the type is question, get the question collection, otherwise get this answer collection, type ID, then we grab the author's preferences. In this case, question or answer, we get the author ID. So there we go, nice and easy. So this part is all done. Let's handle this part. This is handling of that part. So now this needs to go away. This needs to go away because it's a fresh document. We cannot just update the preferences like that. We definitely need to grab the user's preferences, but we need to handle if the vote was already present. If vote was present, then we have to handle that, because this is the part where user might be downvoting. So downvote needs to be there or upvote needs to be there. So let's go ahead and handle this part. All right, this one took some time to actually code it out. So if the vote is present, we're simply going ahead and saying that, hey, if the vote is already present, grab that document and handle the reputation. I've written some comments as well so that you can understand it better. But yes, it took me some time to actually write this complex logic. We have voted this, upvoted it, downvoted it. So we have decreased the reputation. In case the vote was not present, that means the previous vote was upvoted. Now the new value is downvoted. So in that case, we have handled the reputation like that. I'm still not confident whether we are handling it properly or not, but yes, at least we have done a decent job into that. So writing these complex logic sometimes requires a lot more thought process and all of that, but hey, that's all good. So now this is all done. And what we're going to do is we just want to write the documentation and the response part of it. So I think that should be all. Let's go ahead and write the response next. All right, so I paused the video and rewrote a lot of code of it, refactored it with more comments actually this time so that you can actually understand it. I know this is a bit of a complex logic. It even took me a couple of days actually to properly write it and understand it and then explain it. So now I have done it a little bit better job by adding more comments so that you can see what's happening. And again, the whole idea is not to get you friendly with writing complex logic, because obviously you'll get that eventually. But the whole idea is to show you that how you can handle multiple of the things in just your own queries with the APIs from the Next.js. So we are handling the AppWrite, we are handling their user preferences. Based on that, we are increasing, decreasing the reputation. So that's the whole idea. We have gone through with it. I hope you'll be able to see the code and everything. Let me walk you through one more time so that you can grab it, what's happening and how is it happening. Let me just shrink that so that it makes sense. And the whole part of the code, you are able to see that what's happening. So going up at the very top, first of all, we have gone through with the post request. then we are simply grabbing the data. This portion is just grabbing the data. After that, we are simply grabbing a response that how to list all the documents which has all the upvotes and downvotes and whatever the requirements are. We saw that it's not just upvotes and downvotes. We want to precisely mention that I want to grab a specific list of all the documents. So there will be multiple of these documents which will be having the type of the votes and whoever has voted. So we get this document, and then based on this document, we perform two operations, whether the document length is greater than 0, or if it is not greater than 0, then how to handle that part. So that part is handled here. And if somebody is doing from upvote to downvote, or the previous vote does not exist, or the vote status changes from upvote to downvote or to downvote to upvote. So that part we are handling here. And if the vote is already there, that's part we are handling. The handling part is easy. We want to just delete the document in case somebody is again clicking on it. So that's the part here being handled. Rest of it is pretty easy. If you get the logic of how we grab the upvote and how we're increasing the repetition, that's great. Otherwise, you can just mention anything here. Doesn't really matter. You will be handling the light mode, dark mode, more things here. So that is it. And once we have handled this part, the rest part was exactly copy paste, same stuff, but we are deleting the document, existing document. We are creating a fresh one here, almost creating fresh one here. Then we grabbed all the upvotes and downvotes documents, we counted them up, and we sent the response. That is it. So yes, this is a lot of work. This is definitely a lot of work. But yes, you can go ahead and check out my GitHub repo as well onto this one, so that we can combinedly see that what's happening, how's it happening. This is complex. I understand it. I get you there. But yes, just go through it once, twice, and you'll see how the complex apps are being made. That's it for this video. Let's catch up in the next one. Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh and welcome to another video and another part of building this Stack Overflow clone. This one is fairly an easy video, and this one is not about writing the code. This is about understanding the code. So I've written some piece of the code, and together we're going to have a walkthrough of what was the intention of building these components and how they were built. Very easy logic, and as I mentioned earlier in the start of the series, that this is not a 100% beginner series, because otherwise we'll be creating just 30 hours of content, just writing the code and just checking then evaluating it. This is more of a walkthrough of how we build this entire project and what's the thought process, the strategies, and the steps to build it. And the next step is to build the components for it. So in case you are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. In case you're already up here, go ahead and write some comments. And if you don't know what to write, just write a comment. Looking forward for the next video. So let me share the screen and walk you through that what we are building and a couple of these things. Now first is this screen. Now this screen that we are going to be building is a question asking screen as well as the question editing screen. And the component that we are using here is the React Markdown editor. We just took it as it is. We are using it. This is a package that gives us this entire thing where you can just write your Markdown here and it shows the preview here. So if you, whatever you write here, so if you go ahead and write anything like test, if I can write that, test, and this is a para. So all you can just go ahead and write up here. This whole component gives you everything. So we didn't wrote anything up here. This was given to us by React Markdown editor. So the step 1 is to actually grab this. So we just install this package RTE. We call this component as RTE, and we just got it. So we got a React Dynamic and the editor from here, and that's it. This is all what we did. And again, we didn't wrote it. We just borrowed it exactly copy paste from the documentation of this one. So that's the part 1 of it. Now the next step is to how to have these question form. The question form, it looks very complex, but it is not. It's just a couple of forms that we're using. We're not using any special forms component library like that. We're just using classic input containers. We have a title, we have details, we have an image, we have tags, and that's it, a publish button. Now, while writing this code, we wanted that the component should be reused. So while creating a question as well as editing the question, if you're editing a question, you will pass on the data as a prop and we'll fill it. And if you don't pass anything, that's a form for creating a new question. That's exactly what we did in the question form. So if you'll notice, there's other stuff here as well. That's just a boilerplate and wrappers. So this is where the code actually starts. So in that, if you pass me the question, that means we are editing the existing question. So let's fill up the state with that. Otherwise, we'll just keep everything empty. So we grab the user, the tags, and the routers. This is the form data. So if you provide me the question, I'll just set this one as a question title. Otherwise, we'll keep it as empty. The content, same goes for it. If you pass me the content, I'll set up the content. Otherwise, we'll keep it empty. Same goes for author ID, the tags, and the attachment as well. Exactly same stuff. After that, we have actually divided it into a couple of parts. First one is the method of load confetti. So we actually installed a package which gives us the confetti. And in case you want to see the load confetti, it's somewhere here. This is the one that we are using. This comes from the Magic UI as the confetti, and this is actually nice in case you want to use it somewhere else. Go ahead and look for Magic UI, and there they actually provides you inside the components. Here is somewhere confetti. Here it is. It's a newly one, and this one actually gives you this confetti, and they give you all the code, how to install it, as well as all the preview. You can just hit it on the button just like this, random confettis, and the trigger works. So a lot of them are given to us. So we brought this confetti from here. Come on, you can stop it now. And after that, we created a couple of methods. The first one is load confetti. So any event happens, we'll load that confetti. Then one is for creating the document, and one is updating the existing document. The create document, it's simple. We grab the data from the form. We store that first, the image into this into our storage part. We have already worked on this. Super simple, storage.create file, and we provide the attachment buckets and IDs and all of that. That's it. The image got uploaded. And after that, we go ahead and create a new document, which is our questions collection, because you're asking a question. Provide the data, store it, that's it. And after that, load confetti, of course. So this is the part where we work on the creation part of the document. After that, we worked on the updation part of it. The updation is pretty simple because we simply go ahead and work with exactly same. So we simply go ahead and either the file needs to be replaced, we go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we just update the existing document. That's it. Update document. Based on what the question ID is, we just updates the data. That is it. That is it. When the user actually submits this form, so the form that we have, so if user submits this form, we want to check whether that's a submission for an update or if the creation. So for this, we simply go ahead and work on with this. So we simply check it. If the form title is not there and all of that, we set return error that, hey, you haven't set the title or something. And then we simply go ahead and say if the question is already there, that means it's an update request. So we want to fire up our update method. If it is not, then we go ahead and want to fire up our create method. And once it is being done, then we go ahead and redirect the user onto /questions and to the response.id, the ID of the document. And we are slugifying the title of the form or the question so that it's nice and easy for the SEO and all of that. So it's really nice. So this is it. After that, it's all just input labels. That's it. Wherever it is required, we are just having RTE. That's it. If you see it some places, the tags are there, the inputs are there. So it's very, very basic. However you want to modify, you can just go ahead and modify that or check out my GitHub repository. So this is the next part that we worked on with this one. This one took some time. All right, so this is basic. Once we're done with this, the next step that we wanted to work with this is, let me go on to this part where we are having this one. So the next one we wanted to work with is the question. So this is a component, again, comes from the Magic UI. And these are nice cards, and we wanted to have this one. So we designed it like this. There's nothing much inside the question card. You provide me the question as the data, and I just fill the data. Notice here, there is no logic written here. The whole thing is just we provide the question.upvote, question.total answer. You provide me the data as a question and I just fill it up. That's all what we are doing. So question, 0 upvotes, 0 answers. You provide me all the data and I just display that data. The questions are there, the tags are there, who is the author of it. So you have to provide all the data in case you want to use this card. That's the one here. Apart from this, we have some of the comments as well. So if I go ahead and find out which has the comment, I don't think this one has it. If I go ahead and go to questions, yep, this one doesn't have it, but we can add this one. So there we go. So this is the block we wanted to go. Again, same RTE, but this is an answer component. So this one here is the display of the answer. This is where you get the data. This is the easiest one. You just grab the form and you just submit the form. That's the easy part. This is where you actually display the comment here. So this is the answer or the comment part of it. So this is one. And remember, this is the comment, this is the answer. We get them differently. So if you go ahead and write a test one here, just one input form, you send that form and you just click on the add and that's it. It adds it. We want to just send the content of it, who is the user of it, and optionally want to provide the delete button or not. And then we have this just now, which is a simple file which we have created to have the relative time. So based on how much time has been passed on, we want to show 1 day before, 2 days before, just now. Otherwise, you can show just the time as well, the timestamp as well, that, hey, it was posted on this date, this day, and this time. That is also fine. So this is what we worked on the comment. As you can see, there is nothing much. We are just handling the submit part. So as soon as somebody hits the comment, this is it. This is the logic. That's it. That's all what we're doing. We're creating the content, author ID, type, and type ID. That's it. The comment is being done. After that, nothing much. We just refresh the states of it. If the deleting is the comment, we just have to delete a record. So go ahead and find out the what comment ID is there, and we just go ahead and delete it, and that is it. So this is our comment. Similarly, the answers are exactly same. So these are the answers that we have, exactly same. Reusing the component that we have here, you can see the comment is exactly same. The data is almost exactly same, nothing too much to worry about. So if you go into the answer, you'll notice that it is almost exactly same. But as soon as we post the answer, since we have worked on the app and API, the answer is there. We don't request the app or answer API of the AppWrite, but rather we request the answer of our own API, which is the route, because this is how we post the answer, because the repetition needs to be handled. So that is what we are doing up here in this part. So if I go ahead, check the answer, you'll notice that we are using just a classic fetch. You can use Axios as well. We simply send this to /API/answer. We send a post method and we send all the data. Rest of all the logic is handled at that part. So that is it. And last but not the least, which is again a complex part, is a vote button. So this button that you see up here, this button, this is where a lot of magic happens, that what is going on. So let me go ahead and shrink it down so that I can explain you all that's happening. So first of all, use effect to just get that what's the status of it. Is it 0? Is it 1? Is it something else? So all this needs to be happened up here. So this is the one that we have. Again, this all data comes up on the use effect. As soon as you refresh the page, also that data comes up. So this is listing the document, and we get the type ID, and set the what documents. Either get me response.documents, the first of it, or we set it to null. So this is just the use effect. Now comes up the two important part, toggle the upvote, toggle the downvote, and that's it. So when at the time of toggling the upvote, again the same logic, you just send the data, and whatever the data we get, we don't write complex logic here. We have written already that in our API. That makes sense. So this is what we have. Again, no need to discuss too much about it. We just send the document, fetch API/vote. That is the guy who handles that. What we worry about is the vote status. What is the vote status you are sending? Is it a downvoted? Is it an upvoted? That's all what we have to worry about, and that is it. So this is the part where we have worked on all the components, and that's it. Now in the next video, I'll walk you through how we will be actually placing these components into the slugs and the URLs that we'll be creating. Nothing much. I'll walk you through with the details of it. Again, nothing much to be worried about. As I mentioned, all the complex part and the AppWrite interactivity part, that is all done. Now it's up to you how you want to place the data. It's not that important, at least for me, that whether you call this one as up arrow or you want to give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you want to work with that. These are easy part of it. Now I'll walk you through how we have this question, ask a question. You can have this button anywhere you like. It just redirects again back to a particular route. And we have these questions. We can have this. If you go ahead and check out these questions. And again, I think this one, this is how you get the questions. You can search for questions. You can have the ask questions just like that. So in the next video, I'll walk you through how the details of it works on. And I highly recommend to go ahead and check out the repository, go ahead and understand the code. This is a fairly complex project, and it's not possible to have code right by right lining of that, because it's a lot of errors, a lot of walkthrough, but whatever is required, I've already done that. And in the next video, we'll go through with more of this app, how it's being designed and how it's being worked on. Hey there everyone, Hitesh here, and welcome back again to the Stack Overflow clone that we're trying to build. And this video again is a part where I give you a walkthrough of the code, and yes, there is nothing new that we are going to be learning or creating. It's exactly same. Most of the time it's just the queries that we are firing, and boy oh boy, there's so many queries that we're going to be firing up in building the questions page that we have. In case you are new here, go ahead, hit that subscribe. In case you are already here and have already got the subscribe button done, then go ahead into the comment section and just write, hey, we are looking forward for the next video, or any topic that you want to suggest, go ahead, write that in the comment as well. Let's go into the questions part, and let me walk you through that how such a complex thing is being created. And if you ask me, this is the most complex section of it apart from voting. Voting was complex from the logic perspective. This is complex because of the amount of APIs that we need to fire up, and it doesn't look that much when you're building this, but let me walk you through how this works. Now, this whole page slash questions, obviously it is super easy. You can just go ahead into your app, create a new page which says questions, just like this. And that's it. It will create a questions page just like that. And again, it's fairly easy to have the questions, and you can just have a page inside it, just like we have page.tsx, and it will serve the page. So this is exactly that page. Now, once you come on to the ask question, this is again the easy part, because in this you just put up some data, put up the publish, it fires up a confetti, and that's it. This is the easy part. What's complex is this part, because eventually what is going to happen in this all questions, we would love to list all the document that comes up from the question page. So we'll find up all the documents, we'll loop through that. Each of the question will be passed on to the component, and that will just generate this kind of a list that we have. So if I go ahead into the deployed version and check out the questions page, you're going to see this is how it looks like. Very easy, nothing to be worried about. But if you notice here, there's so much going on with this one here. First of all, we are getting the votes. So yes, the vote counts are there. The number of answers are there. The question itself is there. Who has posted the question, that also comes up, and the timestamp. So let's see that how we are figuring it out. So first of all, if you notice up here, this is the page, very basics of it. I'll talk about the search params in a minute. Just leave that out of the one here. Now after that, there are queries that we are trying to build. This is again a part of the search params. We'll come through that in a minute. But first of all, we want the questions. So we are listing the documents, all the documents of the queries of the questions. We have the queries or doesn't have the queries, doesn't really matter. We want to log all the questions. So this is going to be a big gigantic array, and we'll get that. And it would be advisable that eventually you introduce some of the pagination or something like that. But hey, we need to grab that. Once you have all of this, then we need to grab the answers as well. Moving back, there was some noise outside, so I had to pause the video. But coming back onto the part. So once we grab the questions, and we'll talk about the search queries a little bit later, but once we have grabbed the questions and when we have listed the document, you'll notice that we need some more information on this question. Like how many upvotes are there, answers, who posted that, couple of more information we need. Precisely what we need are here. We need the author of this question, we need how many answers are there and how many votes are there. So this cannot appear magically, we need to have some queries on that. So to get the author, we first fire up the query is author.get, and we get the user preferences as well. As apart from that, we get question.authorID. This gives me the author of this question. This is the next query that we fire up, which is based on the question ID, we want to get the answers of that. So give me the answer collection of that. Later on, I can get all the answers from this same query, or I can just count them up. It's totally up to me. And the final one is the votes. So this is the query that gets me all the votes. Again, writing the query in the Appwrite is not that difficult. It's exactly copy paste, but yeah, we have to write that. So this is the only difficult part. And once we get this, this is what we return all the questions. We append this and kind of extend it. And we get the total answers, total vote, and the details about the author. So this is the method that actually is really, really interesting. So this is how we build the entire questions. And yes, questions is not just one questions. We need to grab all the questions of that. Once we grab it like this, then here we simply go ahead and loop through it. That is all that we are doing. So if you go ahead and look for it, this is the questions total, how many questions are there, and the question card. So notice here questions.document, and we pass that to the question card, and that's it. That's all what we do at this place. Now, once we do this, you obviously want to know now that how we are actually using this. So basically, this is the questions page, which gives you all the question, but you have any search questions. Like for example, if I go ahead and write a simple backend here and I search this, this actually redirects us to the same page. So if I go ahead and click on this, this is exactly the same page, but this time the URL changes a little bit. We have questions, and then we have question mark search equals backend. So what we're doing on this same page is we are looking for the search params. And here from the top of the page, we are actually grabbing the query. So search params, how many search parameters or the parameters you are passing to us. So we simply go ahead and get this all the search params. And if there is a search param, we just pass them as the queries. So that's it, really simple solution. You're going to see the same solution in a lot of projects that you work with that. So go ahead and grab the questions. On the home page, just search all this one. If you have any queries, grab the queries from the top of the URL and just do the search again. So this is your questions. And again, yes, this is a lot. Now, once you go ahead and click on any of these questions, then obviously we need a more data that needs to come up. So for this, the parameter or the URL that we have crafted is the questions, then the question ID, and then the sluggified URL of the title of the questions. So for this, how we grab that, we simply go ahead and say inside the questions, we have a square bracket of the question ID. This is how we grab the question ID. So this is the question ID that we grab up here. Now, once we have this question ID, then we have the question name, which is again in the URL. So if we want to grab that, we can slugify it. And once we are into this, then we simply go ahead and have this page.tsx. So in this page, again, a lot of queries need to be fired up because, hey, we need all of this. So we need the question, we need all the answers, we need the upvotes, we need the downvotes, and we need the comments as well. No other shortcuts, we have to fire query for each one of them. The good thing is the way how you fire the query for one, again, you can fire the query for each one of them. Again, that's why we are having a discussion on this rather than writing them, because writing them again would be 30 hours of content. And again, you won't be learning anything new in this. Once you know how to write this query, you obviously can copy paste and find this query as well. So question, we already get the question up here. So this is the easy part of it. We get the question based on the question ID. Then we simply get the answer of it. So based on the question ID, we go ahead and find all the answers. Then we simply go ahead and grab the upvotes. This is the status upvoted. This is the status downvoted. And then all the rest of the things are here. So nothing to be worried. But yes, it definitely is a lot of data, a lot of queries that we are finding up, but sometimes you don't have much of the options. This is exactly the data we'd want. Now, apart from this, you'll notice that we also want to know who is the author of this so that we can conditionally provide him more details about editing the questions, deleting the questions, and whatnot. So for this, we are again finding the author. So this one is the easy part. We grab the author. Then we simply go ahead and grab all the rest of the details like comments, documents, and answer documents and all of that. But yes, not that bad. But yes, as you can see, a lot of work. And that's why I'm saying just try to understand what's going on in this project. A lot of hard work was put in. And when we started this, we thought we'll be doing it on the go. But then we realized it requires a lot of working, a lot of tested and trial. And instead of just writing the code along, we will have a discussion with you so that you can see how the complex projects are designed and you'll have the code base access as well. This is the easy part. Question asked, voted. This is the easy part. You have the buttons and fancy UI. This is the easy part. But the grabbing of the data, this is the complex, man. We spent so much of the time in grabbing and all of this. Yeah, it took us some time to actually craft and get the data and all of that. Once we have this, rest of this is easy. So if you have edit question, you notice we're not doing anything. We're just passing this on to this edit route. If we have delete question, we're doing nothing. We're just firing up this, hey, just delete the document based on the question collection and the question ID. That's it. So the delete part is super easy. Edit part, nothing much in there. So in the edit part, you'll notice that all we do is fire up this edit question, which is this here. And all it does is loads up a card. That's it. Loads up a card, the question form, and we pass on this question there. So that's it. Once you edit this, this is the easy part. So this is what we have. And yes, it took us some time to actually work with that and all of this. But yeah, you get the idea how the gist of it and everything works with that. Now, this is all what we have. Once you go into the profile section, there's a different one in the profile section. Again, this is again a lot of queries and everything are being done. Just give me a second and I'll load up the data as well as the code part of it. And I'll walk you through how that is being designed and how you can actually work more on that design. All right, so moving on to the users part. Now we have got the code of this one. So here is it. And by the way, I'll be pushing all of this into my code GitHub repository. You can grab it. So the users route is fairly decent. It's not really complex. So once you have the users, the first thing that you need to know is the user ID. So user gets its own profile. Once it clicks on this profile, you can see the users. After that, we have this ID up here. And then we are also getting the user's name here, full name, and we are having a URL of this. Grab it, doesn't really matter. So we are having this user slug also. Once the user slug is there, the first page that user is greeted with is the page here. So this page, as you can see here, has some of the user's information. We are using this simple FG. The text is being generated on the first name of this one and the last name of first letter up here. Couple of things dropped 1 hour ago, last activities. These are all grabbed from the AppWrite itself. This is where some of the data comes up, is the reputation, which comes up from the user prefs, how many questions this user has asked and how many answers are being given by this user. So if you go on to this one, We need the user, the questions, and the answer. Again, exactly same, copy paste. We get the prefs just with this query. We have to fire a lot of promises.all. Then this one grabs us all the questions that this user has asked. So we have fired a query which is equal to author ID and pass the params ID. And then we simply go ahead and grab all the answers. Again, this time we are inquiring the answers collection, providing the author ID, and that's it. So we have grabbed all the data. How we display the data is super simple. So we have grabbed the reputation, question asked, and answer. Now inside that, each of these navigation bar that you see, this is a standalone page and have the questions according to that. For example, if you go ahead and look for the questions, right now we have 0 questions up here, but I'm pretty sure there might be something upvoted. Yes, so this is where we upvote. So let's start with the upvote. Once the user gets it, each of this page is a standalone page. For example, this is the page. We fire up just the one query in each of these page. So this is the query that we have voted by, and we pass on the parameters user ID, grabbing from the params, the URL. So if you notice the URL, still we have this params, and we can get the access of it through this square brackets. So once we set this up, we want to see how many pages or you have given the upvote or down. So this is the voting. We are not caring about upvoted or downvoted. We just want to grab the document in which you have contributed as the votes. That might be an upvote, that might be a downvote. So I want to just grab that document. So once I have this documents that the votes are there, I just go ahead and loop through it. So if you go ahead and work with that, I loop through it and display the entire document there. How much information you want to display from the documents is totally up to you, but we are just grabbing the document and just having the questions and answers just like that. Similar to this, if you have any questions, we are firing up the page query for that. So this particular author has how many questions being asked. So we go ahead and look for the documents in which the author ID is of that document. So we have nothing as of now, but if we go ahead and answer it, this is a sample answer. So let me go ahead and just try to have this. Probably we can just go ahead and answer something here. So let's just say my answer. So that will be posted up as an answer. So we go ahead and post this as an answer, and yes, my answer, all of that. So in the profile, this should be available as answer. So notice here our reputation has increased. And if I go ahead and look for the answer, this should be coming up. Probably a reload is required. The only problem is my AppWrite is actually far away. So I need to refresh it probably, or probably I have 4 at the Gmail, something is there. So the whole idea is to make the query and display that data. So we have a question ID in the question page and all of this. And then we have edits as well. So we can make some of these edits based, and this edit is only for the profile. So if you go ahead and click on it, you will be able to update only and only your information. Nothing much is there. We have kept it as a homework. If you want to maybe update full name, you can go ahead and update that. Maybe more information you can go ahead and provide. But this is it. This is all the thing that we worked on. It took us really long time to actually go ahead and work on with this. We enjoyed working on this complex project. Now we probably know in and out of all the things that is there to work on with AppWrite. And I think you also now have a fairly decent understanding of this project. If you're looking forward to grab or build something as a complex project using the backend as a service, this is a fantastic project, and majority of this project, the learning will come from by reading the documentation. In case you find any problem, just let me know in the comment section. I'll do a live stream as well to answer your questions, that what you are not able to understand and how is it all going on and all these details that you want that. So this is it, I guess. Let's call it a day. I'll be checking more of the things. If there is more required, I'll just go ahead and add that, and we'll push the code so that you can also go ahead, deploy this. There's nothing much. Just go ahead, fill up the environment variables. Rest of the things will automatically fill up. Couple of tweaks that we have in the models. Now you are aware of that how that actually goes up, especially just in the questions. It sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. Probably I am doing something wrong. I need to understand it more. But that is it. That is it. I hope you have enjoyed this as a whole project. I'll try to nail down the project. Next time, whenever I'll do the project, I'll try to do it in the Go, but then a lot of bugs are there. Fixing up the bugs takes a lot of time. I don't want to waste your entire time in that. Took us weeks to actually finish it. But next time I'll try to do all the project and the code work part along with you in the videos. But I think you have enjoyed this. The whole goal was to teach you something about the AppWrite, show you the complex project, and go ahead and add more features to this one. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you have enjoyed this, drop a subscribe and a comment as well. And I'll surely catch you up in the next video.